In the Empire of Melberton, Nisha, a famous imperial wizard, ends up in a slump after finding out that she is neither the main heroine nor villainous in the novel she's in. In fact, Nisha is a side character without a single line in the original novel. Knowing that, she tries to escape the original plot by disappearing. Nisha conceals herself from the main plot for a year. Or so she thought. Frei Melberton, the king and original male lead of the story, summons Nisha. The king demands an explanation for Nisha's disappearance, stating that she may be connected to Roseanne's plot. Luck is definitely not on Nisha's side today. It turns out Roseanne, the main villainess in the story, has been using her psychic powers to manipulate people and imperial wizards to turn their backs on the king. The king speculates that Nisha could be one of the wizards who had planned treason against him. Well, that escalated quickly. All Nisha ever wanted was to escape the main plot, and now she's being framed? Isaac, Nisha's best friend, comes into Nisha's defense, making the king suspect Isaac too. Not wanting Isaac to be dragged into this situation, Nisha clarifies that Isaac has nothing to do with her disappearance. The king tells Nisha that if she fails to explain herself, she'd be put to the guillotine. This leaves Nisha with a look of panic. I mean, who wouldn't be afraid of such news? "But I'm willing to give you a second chance," says the king. In the north, the Grand Duke Lanfel Delore is under a curse. If Nisha can break the curse, then she'll be free from suspicion. Taking up the task, Nisha travels north where she is caught in a blizzard. Running past her is a man who closely resembled the Duke's descriptions. Doesn't the cold bother him? He's literally running through a blizzard. Nisha decides to follow him in case he's the Duke. As she nears him, she realizes that an avalanche is about to descend. Running at full speed, Nisha tackles the man with all hopes of saving him. Perhaps he's the Duke, perhaps he isn't. Either way, she still saved him. Nisha might be at risk of frostbite. Duke Lanfel enters the room as soon as Nisha's treatment is done. I'm guessing he's worried about Nisha. Lanfel prepares to speak, but halts himself when he notices the staff crowd around Nisha. He quickly dismisses them, and he too leaves Nisha's room, canceling whatever it is he wanted to say to Nisha. Being left alone now, Nisha is thankful for her injured state. Wow, this is the first time I've heard someone be grateful for getting injured. At least while she's injured, she is welcome to stay at the manor. Pulling herself up, Nisha uses magic to heal her ankle. She remarks that there's no time for her to lounge around. She must find out what curse is plaguing Lanfel. Later that night, Nisha sneaks out of her bedroom to investigate. She whips out her very own magic detectors to aid her in locating the curse. As she walks around, the detectors pick up a magical source at the end of the corridor. Nisha quickly follows, but when she rounds the corner, she bumps into Lanfel. Lanfel eyes Nisha. She's carrying a strange device, and suddenly her ankle is better. He couldn't be more suspicious of her now. Nisha explains everything to Lanfel. He is dumbfounded at the whole situation. Lanfel recalls how he and the king practically grew up like brothers. He doesn't know what games the king is playing by sending Nisha here. Should he just let the whole thing slide this time? Composing himself, Lanfel tells Nisha that she can stay until she fulfills the king's orders. Before he leaves, he gives Nisha a pair of shoes as she was walking around barefoot. I think his actions were genuine, though. It seems like he does harbor concern for Nisha. In the morning, Raymond the butler announces that Nisha will be staying in the manor for a while. Chloe, one of the staff, tours Nisha around the manor. Nisha begins the tour with enthusiasm, enjoying the manor rooms and relaxing at the balcony views. She could get used to living here. Nisha exhausts herself as the tour progresses. Not wanting to tire too much, she asks Chloe if they can continue tomorrow. Alone in her room, Nisha realizes that she hasn't seen Duke Lanfel all day. Nisha once again investigates the manor. Like clockwork, Raymond passes by, bringing soup and what seems like a potion. Maybe the curse and the potion are mixed together. Wanting to confirm her suspicions, Nisha follows Raymond to Lanfel's room. Nisha reminds herself that she's following the king's order, therefore whatever actions she takes are sure to be justified. With unwavering resolve, Nisha barges into Lanfel's room. Dear me, Nisha may have a bit too much determination. The room seems ordinary, except for a big blanket bundle on the bed. Is that Lanfel? As Nisha approaches, Lanfel pops his head out of the blanket, thinking it was Raymond who had entered his quarters. When he sees it's Nisha, he quickly retreats to his blanket with a red flushed face. He's so bashful for a high-ranking person. Seeing him in such a state, Nisha is convinced he needs help expelling the curse. She consistently offers her services despite Lanfel's behest. Nisha really doesn't take no for an answer. Pulling the covers off of Lanfel, Nisha checks on him, his temperature, his red face, and everything else. She fidgets around Lanfel, non-stop trying to figure out what is wrong with him. Lanfel exclaims that he doesn't know much about the curse, but whatever it is, it has nothing to do with his current condition. Curiously, Nisha asks why he should be so sure. In a shy and timid voice, Lanfel tells Nisha that he's just experiencing a cold. Hearing this, Nisha is at a loss for words. How could she have confused a cold and a curse? Nisha has read about many dukes in novels, but she's never known anyone like Lanfel. How ironic of a duke of a cold region to be so prone to catching a cold. Not wanting to bother Raymond anymore, Nisha offers to take care of Lanfel so Raymond can rest. Lanfel makes no comment, but as Nisha busies herself in tending to him, he can tell that she doesn't have any experience in caretaking. As Nisha leaves the room to get some tea, Lanfel gets up to fix himself. Lanfel changes out of his drenched shirt. Not even completely clothed yet, Nisha barges back into the room carrying the tea. How could she be back so soon? In panic, Lanfel retreats under his covers without his shirt. Oh no, I can already see where this is going. Nisha soon realizes that Lanfel refuses to move away from his covers. Thinking he got worse when she left, she quickly closed the distance between them and held his forehead to check on him. She's basically face to face with Lanfel. She's too close. Nisha's proximity makes Lanfel blush profusely. The guy doesn't have his shirt on. Of course he's shy. In an attempt to get Nisha away, Lanfel tells her that he is no longer sick. Insistent as ever, Nisha demands to know what he's hiding from her. With a swift motion, Nisha pulls the covers off of Lanfel. No! I can feel the secondhand embarrassment at the situation. A topless Lanfel is revealed and Nisha immediately averts her eyes. What? Sir, you're illegal. As soon as Lanfel is dressed, Nisha asks about his condition. Taking the tea from Nisha, Lanfel genuinely expresses his gratitude for her concern. Late in the evening, Raymond wakes up and immediately worries about Lanfel. What if he fainted again? Rushing over to Lanfel's quarters, he realizes that he was worried for no reason. The sight before him was of Lanfel sleeping soundly and Nisha by his side. Seeing this, Raymond is reassured that Lanfel was taken care of while he rested. It almost makes Raymond's heart melt to see someone care for Lanfel aside from him. The next morning, Raymond personally thanks Nisha for taking care of Lanfel. As Nisha makes her way to Lanfel's room, she's pulled aside by two Manor staff to chat. Nisha's eyes drift to one of the maiden's wrists. It's bandaged all around. Offering a kind gesture, Nisha uses her magic to heal the maiden's wrist. Both maidens shower her with praise and gratitude, which makes Nisha smile in delight. She's kind-hearted in many ways. I think she finds joy in helping others. Entering Lanfel's quarters, Nisha greets Lanfel by asking about his condition. Admittedly, Lanfel feels quite all right now. Except when he remembers how Nisha cared for him, his heart rate spikes suddenly. This alarms Nisha, and she quickly leaves to get a wet towel for Lanfel. He just has to go with it because he can't admit that his sped-up heart rate was because he was thinking of her. As evening falls, Nisha roams the manor for late-night investigations. She's a brave one, I tell you. A locked room with a chain strapped to its doors attracts Nisha's attention. She strongly believes there's something in there. Nisha uses her invention, Slimy, to investigate the locked room. Sending Slimy inside, Nisha puts on special glasses to share Slimy's vision. She really is a genius for coming up with innovative inventions like that. The room is dark and abandoned. Slimy makes his way up the chair and onto the dresser where a skull is neatly placed. Surely that's a decoration, right? Beside the skull is a picture frame with a girl as its subject. Who could that be? Seeing that both items are suspicious, Nisha stops her investigation there and retreats to her quarters. She pens a report of her findings to the Imperial Palace immediately. As her messenger bird Sasha delivers a letter, Nisha muses on the thought that she'll probably be seeing Isaac soon. Nisha startles awake as she realizes she's late. She hastily makes her way to Lanfel's quarters. Midway, she stops out of curiosity why everyone is outside. To her surprise, Lanfel is out with everyone and is dressed for an expedition. Where does he think he's going? He's sick. Lanfel greets Nisha and informs her that he'll be out on a 3-day expedition. Nisha does not protest. Knowing that Lanfel gets cold easily, Nisha provides him with a scarf with all the intention of putting a spell on it to keep him warm. As Nisha leaves, Lanfel orders his men to check the expedition's preparations once more. He reflects on earlier events, and again his face flushes red while thinking of Nisha. Inside the manor, Nisha notes that the place feels empty without Lanfel. Though it doesn't bother her since she can freely explore and find out more about the curse. Wow, she's really immersed in her work, isn't she? Nisha proceeds to the locked room and tries to pry the locks open. She stops when Raymond catches her red-handed. Oh no, I hope she's not in trouble. Raymond tells Nisha that the room in question is a special place for Lanfel, thus he requests Nisha not to enter it and just leave it be. Deciding to heed Raymond's request, Nisha searches for other rooms to investigate. She concludes that somewhere in the manor may be a secret room, an underground lair, or even a dungeon. Ah yes, the classic eerie places. Daniel, a manor servant, approaches Nisha while she's in mid-thought. Startled by Daniel's presence, Nisha accidentally kicks her bag, scattering all her sharp tools on the floor. Seeing a hammer with red liquid, Daniel fears for his life. He thinks it's blood on the hammer. No, it's actually just her slimy number 2 invention. As Nisha tries to converse with him, he exclaims he knows nothing and ultimately runs away begging Nisha to spare his life. How hilarious. Late that night, Nisha retreats back to her room. It is yet again another day of not finding anything. I guess she feels frustrated for not gaining new information. Later that night, Isaac receives the letter Nisha sent. As the king reads through Nisha's report, he notices Isaac crying by the window. Isaac tells the king that he worries for Nisha. In response to this, the king loudly guesses that Isaac harbors feelings for Nisha. Isaac does not deny it, but he blushes for being found out. Well, that was an unexpected confession. I wonder if Nisha knows. The king reassures Isaac not to worry, as Nisha probably isn't straining herself too much. The truth is, Lanfel isn't really cursed to begin with. What? Then why bother sending her there? For Isaac to understand what he means, the king looks back to the events of Roseanne's defeat. Roseanne, the persistent villainess on the verge of defeat, takes her own life before the imperial force could seize her. Well, that's downright morbid. With her dying breath, she huffs out that she'd curse even with her dead body. The townspeople spread news that the king had stopped Roseanne, but in all truth, it was a Lanfel who stopped the villainess. After Roseanne's defeat, rumors spread that Roseanne's curse befell Lanfel. Paying no mind to rumors, Lanfel retreats back to the north immediately. However, the king remarks that Lanfel was never truly the same afterwards. Despite knowing that Lanfel isn't cursed, the king still can't help but worry. To ease Isaac's anxiety for Nisha's condition, the king discloses to Isaac that Nisha was merely sent to ease the king's own worries for Lanfel. Isaac need not worry so much, as Nisha isn't dealing with actual curses. The next morning, in the land of Delore, Lanfel and his envoys visit a manor owned by the imperial palace. During their journey, they come across monsters during the day. This is an uncommon occurrence, as monsters usually roam in the dead of night. Something strange must be going on in this place. A butler welcomes Lanfel to the manor. As Lanfel enters, a red-haired man greets him with a grin. The man resembles Roseanne so much. Could this be Roseanne's exiled son that was driven away by the imperial palace? Lanfel is in no mood for warm greetings and pleasantries. Lenok, Roseanne's son and the king's half-brother, faces Lanfel's sword as soon as he begins to speak. Lanfel can be scary at times too. Lanfel is curious if Lenok had been out of the manor recently. Returning his energy, Lenok answers plainly that he can't even step outside the manor. Lanfel and Lenok converse with each other by the fireplace. Lanfel has many questions, one of which is if Lenok notices anything unusual about the monsters surrounding the manor lately. This seems to be a serious matter for Lanfel. Lenok doesn't know much, but he discloses that a serpent had been roaming around the manor's magical barrier from time to time. Lanfel immediately realizes that this serpent is the same one that he had hacked to pieces earlier upon reaching the manor. Concluding that Lenok had no more information, Lanfel leaves Lenok alone. Lanfel retreats to a room in the manor, but the cold stops him from resting soundly. Poor Lanfel, he gets cold easily. Remembering the scarf Nisha gave him, Lanfel gets up to grab it and realizes that Nisha must have put a spell on it to keep it warm. The next day, Lenok is grim-faced when Lanfel departs back to the north so soon. Nevertheless, he sees Lanfel off as he heads out. Lenok doesn't look too well. Is he sick, or maybe he has reservations about Lanfel's departure? Back in the north, Nisha joins the kitchen staff in preparing hot meals to welcome Lanfel and his envoy's return. How thoughtful of Nisha to involve herself in these things. As the troops approach the manor, they exclaim that everyone, including Nisha, is waiting outside to welcome them. Hearing this, Lanfel fidgets around and becomes conscious of how his scarf is tied. Cutie, he's all flustered again. Lanfel blushes at being firstly welcomed by Nisha. Nisha smiles widely upon seeing Lanfel, and she quickly tells him that she and the rest of the maidens have prepared dinner to celebrate their arrival. Once more, Lanfel cannot conceal the tint on his cheeks as he interacts with Nisha so warmly. He's always so worked up when it comes to Nisha. I bet he's starting to like her. The welcome party begins as soon as the Duke and his envoys arrive back at the manor. Lanfel is never fond of parties like those, so he slips from the crowd and retreats to his room. Is he an introvert of some sort? Alone in his room, Lanfel recalls the earlier happenings at the party. Nisha busies herself helping out with everything. Even other people notice how hands-on she is at tending to everyone. Lady Nisha sure is taking care of everything. I wish she were the manor mistress. Hearing this, Lanfel gapes his mouth open in disbelief. Who would say such a thing? Seeing Lanfel all red, Nisha approaches him to ask if he's feeling sick. Lanfel dismisses the question, reassuring Nisha that he's fine. He tells Nisha that he's heading back to his quarters and that Nisha should enjoy the rest of the night. Back in his room, Lanfel tries to make sense of his expedition. At one point, Lanfel suspects that Lenok could be related to the unusual events, and perhaps he does have some magic, but Lanfel really has no proof. Lanfel settles with researching more about the monster first. Suddenly, Nisha interjects that he should be resting since he just got back. Nisha's sudden interruption startles Lanfel, making him flinch at her interjection. Lanfel is easily startled by things, or maybe it's just Nisha that makes him act that way? Later on, Nisha brings out a bear-shaped pie she baked for Lanfel. As Lanfel enjoys the pie, Nisha asks to investigate more about his curse. Nisha really doesn't know that Lanfel isn't cursed. Promising to keep her investigation short, she decides to check Lanfel for red curse marks. As she's checking, things get quite awkward when Nisha slips and they both stumble on each other. Nisha and Lanfel are left in a rather intimate position. I can feel both their cheeks heat up. Undeniably, Lanfel and Nisha's current position makes it difficult for both of them not to be embarrassed. Nisha apologizes for what happened, but as she's getting up, Raymond walks into the room. Oh my gosh, they're gonna get caught in an awkward situation. Thinking quickly, Lanfel pulls Nisha into a lying down hug so that both of them aren't seen by Raymond. They're like a couple right now. When Raymond leaves, both of them pull away from each other. Nisha immediately leaves the room and retreats to her own quarters. Upon reaching her quarters, her cheeks flush with the pinkest shades. I guess even Nisha gets flustered too. That night, Nisha could barely sleep just thinking of the hug she and Lanfel shared. The next morning during breakfast with Lanfel, things are still pretty awkward between them at first. Trying to break the ice, Nisha raises a concern about her task. Despite her best efforts, she hasn't found anything about the curse yet. She offers an idea that might help her, but this requires permission from Lanfel first. Nisha would like to observe and follow Lanfel around for her investigation. Lanfel agrees, but tells her that it might be boring and exhausting. Nisha dismisses this, asserting that it is all right for her. Her dedication is really out of this world. That day, Nisha finds herself eating her own words. It is exactly as Lanfel said, boring and exhausting. Lanfel approaches Nisha and offers her his cloak to shield her from the cold. That's very selfless of Lanfel, considering he's the one who gets cold easily. As the sun sets, Lanfel joins Nisha as they make their way back to the manor. Curiously, Nisha asks Lanfel why there are no warming mechanisms in the north. Lanfel tells Nisha of their predicament, how any warming device transported to the north would freeze even before reaching the destination. As a result, people forcibly endure the cold. Hearing this, Nisha surges with hopeful energy. Being an inventor totally has its perks. Nisha promises Lanfel that she'll help with the warmth situation. In fact, she'd invent a device to keep them warm. In the snowy training ground, the knights are continuously panting while taking a break from training. The moment their eyes land on Lord Lanfel, they're amazed to not even see him tired at all. However, deep inside, Lord Lanfel is freezing to death and eventually regrets his decision to train outside. In the middle of taking a break, he hears Nisha, who's casually looking at their training tools. It turns out that she's there to give something to Lord Lanfel. A hand warmer. Yesterday, she actually promised to help keep him warm and invented a hand warmer for him. She asks him to stay still and inserts it into the pocket of his chest, making his cheeks slightly turn red as he starts to feel butterflies in his stomach. It's so adorable that he gets easily flustered by such a simple gesture. Surprisingly, it really makes him feel warm and comfortable. The moment the other knights hear about it, they start to gather around Lord Lanfel and touch it to confirm. Seeing the knights who are all surprised about it, Nisha opens the sack that's full of hand warmers and gives it to everyone. Lord Lanfel is touched by how thoughtful Nisha is to everyone. He puts on a sweet smile on his face and thanks Nisha, making her cheeks blush. She isn't really expecting him to thank her, but it really feels nice to hear it from him. After that, the hand warmer that Nisha's made has been the talk of the town to the point that she can even make a business opportunity out of it. But she doesn't want to, since all she wants to do is help the people. For real, I would make a business out of it. She would be rich if she did. At night, when most of the people in the palace are asleep, Nisha notices something. She sees the door that's normally closed wide open. Curiosity starts to hit her, given that this moment is the only opportunity that she'll get to see what's in the room. What will Nisha eventually see the moment that she steps into that room? Nisha goes into the room, but when she's about to go out, she's accidentally locked inside. OMG, who could that be? Is there someone out there to get her? Meanwhile, in the office, Lord Lanfel looks exhausted as he's looking at the letters that he received. The Queen's birthday is coming, and it's no wonder he's receiving a lot of letters from different ladies asking him to be their partner. Lord Lanfel doesn't have any interest in those women, and will surely decline their offer. He's already busy enough managing the kingdom. He doesn't want to add something up. Seeing him stressed with all of it, Raymond suggests that he bring Nisha as his date to the Queen's ball. His face softens as if he can't contradict that suggestion. He looks at Raymond and agrees to the idea. Raymond giggles, and in the back of his mind, he knows that Lanfel won't say no to Nisha. He knows that Lanfel somehow feels something special for Nisha. Yes! I love Raymond for doing that. They go outside the office in an attempt to look for Nisha when they pass by a room. Lord Lanfel notices that there's something weird in that room, something unusual. He opens it, and to his surprise, Nisha comes out of that room. He's in shock. He asks her what she's doing in there. Hearing his raised voice, she apologizes right away. She explains that she was just curious and was just doing research. Raymond then apologizes to Lanfel for not making sure that the room is locked, but then Lanfel turns his back on them and tells them that they'll just talk about it the next day. Oh no, this is the first time he's ever looked upset. What are you going to do to Nisha? On their way to Nisha's room, she apologizes to Raymond for what she did, but then Raymond tells her that it's his fault for not keeping it locked. It turns out that room is the room full of relics of the deceased king and queen. No wonder it's special for Lord Lanfel. No wonder he acted that way. In Lord Lanfel's office, Nisha looks nervous and guilty at the same time while facing Lord Lanfel. Looking at each other's eyes, they apologize at the same time. I know it's a coincidence, but they're too cute. Nisha apologizes for entering the room without permission, while Lanfel apologizes for his treatment and the way he talked to her. He's so gentle. Where are the guys that are just like him? After a couple more rounds of apologizing, they sit down for tea when all of a sudden Lord Lanfel asks Nisha if she found something extraordinary in the room, to which she answers that she didn't. However, she recalls seeing someone who was behind her yesterday and intentionally locked her in. Lord Lanfel also saw that the lock in the room yesterday wasn't the same as the lock that they always used. He finds the whole situation kind of strange and plans to investigate it. In the middle of their talk, Raymond walks behind Lord Lanfel and whispers at him to ask Nisha to be his partner at the Queen's banquet. Lord Lanfel's face reddens. It looks as if his blood rises up to his face. He then calms himself. He gently looks at Nisha, who's clueless about what's about to happen. After taking deep breaths, he then proceeds to ask her if she can be his partner at the Queen's banquet. Go for it, Nisha, my girl. I bet they'll look so good together. Nisha's in shock, and she's starting to look like a tomato. She can't believe that the Lord Lanfel asked her to be his partner. However, despite badly wanting to be his partner, she can't. She declines him, saying that she's worried other people might talk behind their back because she's not an aristocrat. She's never been to a ball before, doesn't even know how to dance, and might step on his feet. But those worries swift away the moment Lanfel holds her hand. He looks at her softly, telling her not to worry about any of those things. She doesn't have to know how to dance, and it's okay if she steps on his feet over and over again. Lord Lanfel gently kisses Nisha's hands, which astounds her. And without any hesitation, she agrees to be his partner. Oh, God! He's such a Mr. Romantic. He may be a shy type, but he sure is smooth. In her room, Nisha contemplates if saying yes was the right thing to do, but it can't be undone now. And so she starts thinking about the banquet if she'll be able to see her friend Isaac in there and how popular both Isaac and Lord Lanfel will be. And speaking of the banquet, she hurriedly runs to her cabinet to look for a dress to wear, but it stresses her that she can't find one. There's no single event dress in her cabinet fit for a ball. The next day, Chanel enters Nisha's room only to see Nisha looking so stressed. It turns out that she's so worried since she has nothing to wear for the banquet. Chanel, together with Linda, asks her to bring her outside since they had an idea on how to aid her problem. However, it turns out that their solution involves Raymond and him promptly convincing Lanfel to take Nisha to a dress shop. Nisha feels a bit stiff, but as time goes by, she kind of feels comfortable. The moment she tries on her different dresses, her heart always skips a bit because Lanfel never fails to compliment her look. He has always made her feel pretty in any way and every way. He's a huge green flag. The moment Nisha arrives in her room, she immediately throws herself on the bed, feeling exhausted with all the errands that they did. Who would have thought that shopping could be so tiring? But despite feeling so tired, she's somehow thankful that Lanfel accompanied her and bought her the things that she needs for the banquet. Wanting to express her gratitude, Nisha wants to give a gift to Lord Lanfel. The day has come. Nisha and Lanfel are standing at the entrance of the banquet. Lanfel asks Nisha if she's okay since she looks a bit nervous, but then Nisha assures him that she's okay. Lanfel asks her to turn around, and when she does, Lanfel then attaches a necklace on her. Nisha's in shock, never expecting something like that will happen to her. Her heart skips a beat as her face starts to turn red. OMG! Why is he random yet so sweet? When they go inside, they start to dance, despite stepping on Lanfel's feet 10 times already. Lanfel isn't saying anything. In fact, he even compliments Nisha, saying that she's such a good dancer despite it being a lie. In the middle of the dance, Lanfel looks at her gently in the eyes as he asks her to try to stop addressing him as Lord and just call him by his name. With his hands wrapped around her waist, she stood there speechless and with a visible blush on her face. A couple of moments later, Lanfel excuses himself to talk with the king. They start to talk about the possible invasion of their enemy as they plan on what to do about it. After the quick meeting, Lanfel goes back to the banquet. But the moment he spots Nisha, his mood changes upon seeing Nisha dancing with the tall, gray-haired guy. Isaac! After dancing, Nisha immediately apologizes to Isaac for stepping a couple of times on his foot. Isaac thinks it's unnecessary, but Nisha feels guilty and offers to treat his wounds with ointment. A memory of when they were kids flashes. Isaac thinks that Nisha's always been kind to him, even when they were young. She's always been to his rescue whenever he's injured, and he likes her for that. He thinks that at that very moment, he should confess. But before he can utter a word, Lord Lanfel comes. I'm so sorry, Isaac. You are kind and good-looking, but I only want Nisha for Lanfel. Isaac greets Lord Lanfel and introduces himself. Analyzing the whole situation, Isaac has no other choice but to postpone his confession and excuse himself. Right after Isaac leaves, Queen Stella arrives and greets Nisha. All of a sudden, someone hugs her from behind. It's King Frei. They keep on acting sweet towards each other, clear enough to see that they're deeply in love. I've never felt this single the moment I saw Stella and Frei. A couple of moments later, Queen Stella invites Nisha to have tea with her without the guys. There, Queen Stella happily shares with her how she admires Nisha's work, and because of that, she wants to become her friend. Nisha is in shock. It's clearly not in her expectation that the queen herself would want to be her friend. She's even more happy when the queen invites her for a sleepover in the palace, but that happiness fades away the moment Nisha feels that something bad will happen soon. But what could it be and how will it happen? For now, no one really has an idea. No one really knows. At the sleepover, Stella makes sure that Nisha is comfortable. There, they talk and laugh and even wear matching sleepwear. Happiness is evident on their faces. They create new memories as if they have known each other for years. But that happiness will soon turn into fear. Throughout the whole event, Nisha notices something strange, as if someone's been watching the ball from the outside. In case something happens, she sprinkles dust on the ballroom's door to let King Frei and Lord Lanfell know right away when an outsider comes in. In Queen Stella's room, Stella's already asleep while Nisha's looking at her, realizing how happy and lucky she is to be her new friend. All of a sudden, a guy wearing a hood appears. He grabs her, gags her mouth, and ties her hands. That chaos causes Stella to fall from her bed and sees Nisha being kidnapped. You guys might wonder why the man isn't doing anything to her. Well, it's all because Nisha sprinkled dust on her so she can be invisible to that man. The man has mistaken Nisha for the queen. Frightened by what happened, Stella runs towards King Frei's office, telling the king and Lanfell of what happened, which alarms them. The man walks towards an unknown place carrying Nisha. She then moves and forcefully breaks the ties on her hands. This surprises the man, but what surprises him the most is when Nisha grips him and tackles him to the ground, leaving him unconscious. It's all so easy for her to knock down a man like him. Surely she won't even bother using her magic for someone as useless as that man. She is like an Amazon! Way to go, girl! Nisha doesn't know the way back to the palace, so she decides to just wait for help when all of a sudden, she hears someone walking towards where she is. It's Lord Lanfell. He's standing by the pond, but it seems like he doesn't notice it. Nisha warns him, but it looks like he doesn't get it and still continues to walk towards her, causing him to fall in the pond. I didn't know love could make you clumsy too. Lanfell's dripping wet as he's crawling towards Nisha from the pond. Nisha looks concerned, wondering if he's okay, but Lanfell's even more concerned for her. The moment he gets closer to Nisha, he asks how she is, if she's okay or if she's harmed in any way. But Nisha assures him that she's fine. Lanfell recalls that he was so worried and rushed right away the moment he heard she was kidnapped by a strange man. What surprises Lanfell is when he sees the strange man unconscious on the floor. He can't believe that Nisha did that by herself. Well, it seems like Nisha's stronger than he thinks. Still, he wants to make sure that she's okay since he sees that her hands are all swollen. But before he can even get closer, Nisha's face turns red as she's telling him not to get too close. Lanfell wonders why. It turns out that his body can be seen through his shirt because he's all dripping wet. Embarrassment is eating away at him as he turns away and hides his body. But then Nisha offers to dry his clothes using her magic, to which he immediately agrees. After drying his clothes, they start to discuss what to do with the strange man, considering that it'll be too heavy for them to carry him. They decide to just wait for help to come. Minutes pass and it's starting to get so cold. Nisha can see that Lanfell's starting to get so cold just by looking at his hands that are starting to shake. She's starting to get worried. Nisha wants to help him so badly, but then she runs out of magic. It makes her feel bad not being able to help Lanfell. She's afraid that he'll get sick because of the cold. But then Nisha gets an idea. And as embarrassing as it is for her, she hugs him, telling him that they can somehow get rid of the cold using the warmth of each other's body. And just with that, Lord Lanfell hugs her back, feeling the warmth from Nisha's body. It's a lovey-dovey moment, people. These two are progressing faster than anticipated. A hint of regret surfaces the moment Nisha hugs Lanfell. As time goes by while they remain hugging each other, her face turns even more red. She breaks the hug, telling him that she's warm enough, but Lanfell's still cold. She awkwardly laughs and offers to just create a fire with her magic so that he can still feel warm. But then Lanfell looks at her and hugs her tightly as he means that he wants her body's warmth and not anything else. She slowly turns red as if all her blood rushes to her face. She feels so nervous and her heart skips a beat the moment he hugs her again. From afar, the king's watching them hugging each other with a huge smile on his face as if he's low-key enjoying it. The king is so me. He's such a matchmaker. In the middle of the hug, King Frei suddenly approaches the both of them. Shock is evident on their faces. They are both surprised and embarrassed by the thought that someone saw them in that position. 30 knights immediately walk towards Nisha, accompanying her to the palace while King Frei walks towards Lanfell. The king talks about how thankful he is to Nisha for saving Stella and that he wants to give her an award for that. And of course, their talk won't finish without Frei teasing Lanfell about what happened, which he successfully did since Lanfell looks so annoyed. The moment they arrive at the palace, Stella hurriedly runs to check on Nisha. She shares that she feels guilty about what happened, but Nisha assures her that it's all fine and that she's okay. While they're talking, someone suddenly puts a blanket on Nisha and she turns around to see Lanfel. He looks into her eyes and gently asks her to go inside the palace since it's getting cold. Nisha wants him to go together with her, but then he has something to do with Frei. Why is he so sweet? Ugh, that was so out of nowhere, yet so sweet. Inside the palace together, Nisha looks at Stella, who's still guilty and frightened by what happened. Well, it's expected since she saw how the man abducted Nisha. In order to somehow help her, Nisha sits beside Stella and assures her that everything will be okay. Nisha gives her a diamond ring, telling her that if something bad happens, all she has to do is twist it and she'll arrive as soon as she can. Stella couldn't feel even more happy. She hurriedly hugs and thanks Nisha for it. Meanwhile, Frei and Lanfel are in the prison in the palace facing the unconscious body of the bandit. The moment the bandit wakes up, Frei begins to ask him who his boss is. However, Lanfel, who's fuming with anger, interrupts, saying that it'll be useless to just ask him like that since he clearly won't say anything. And the only solution Lanfel thinks is to torture him until he won't be able to use his legs to walk out of that place. So this is the dark side of him. It gives me a shiver, but then again, this guy shouldn't have hurt his beloved Nisha. In the carriage, Nisha still looks nervous, but then Lanfel comforts her, telling her that she has no need to worry since the palace will take care of it. Earlier that day, the one who hired the bandit had been caught. It turns out to be a former aristocrat named Kylo. He tries to save himself and lie about what he did, but the king hands him all the evidence. The documents that he hired the bandit and the proof that he concealed his properties while attempting to leave the country. All of these are enough proof for him to be prosecuted. All of a sudden, Nisha interrupts them, saying that she still saw someone tailing the queen at the ball, and that she can know who it is by using her magic. All of them are in shock the moment that her magic points toward the palace knights until it points out the knight named Logan. They can't believe that a knight betrayed them. Logan apologizes, telling them that Kylo threatened to hurt his family if he didn't help him. But despite his begging for forgiveness, Lanfel tells him that it still won't change the fact that he betrayed the kingdom, especially the queen. Back to the present, on their way home, a red-haired guy is watching Nisha and Lanfel's carriage as it moves away. And it's none other than Lenok, of course. He can't help but feel entertained by all that's been happening since they have no idea that he was involved all along. And with all of this happening, this is starting to help him get closer to his plan. Nisha appears to be enthusiastic about delivering a couple of things to Lanfel. As he walks past her, she's distracted once again after noticing that he never wears layers despite the cold. Shortly, she approaches him to give him certain things he might need to help keep him warm. She feels eager to show him the rest of the things she has made. However, Lanfel needs to get going, so that leaves her dumbfounded. Ever since they got back from the palace, Nisha senses that Lanfel has been avoiding her lately, and she doesn't know why. Why are you doing this, Lanfel? Later that night, Nisha finds herself reflecting back on what she has done at the palace. After realizing that she was quite troublesome during that time, she still doesn't get it. She decides to just ask him in person. On the other hand, Lanfel thinks that Nisha must be upset because he has been avoiding her. But he is not doing it for no reason at all. A couple of days ago at the palace, he overheard Nisha and King Frei's conversation about her going back to the palace. For this reason, Lanfel assumes that Nisha wants to go back to the palace. Therefore, he is expecting her to leave anytime soon. He starts blaming himself for not being manly enough for her. However, he can't let his emotions get in her way, so he plans to just get rid of his feelings for her. Oh, no, Lanfel! You're such a sweet guy! Oh, he really is a walking green flag. The next day, Nisha starts looking for Lanfel everywhere because she is determined to figure out why he keeps avoiding her. She finds him on the bridge by the East Tower after asking the workers about his whereabouts. Lanfel is taking in his own company, which is why he's surprised by Nisha's sudden arrival, especially given how cold it is outdoors. The tension between them is evident, and it's too much for Nisha. She thinks that she's being too casual with him, so she apologizes for making him uncomfortable and excuses herself shortly after. Back in Nisha's room, she's sulking because she notices that Lanfel doesn't even want to touch her anymore. Poor Nisha. If you only knew about Lanfel's feelings. Ugh, just confess already. Not long after, Linda and Chloe knock and ask permission to come inside her room. They notice that Nisha didn't look well earlier, so they check up on her. Everyone in the manor already senses something is going on between Nisha and Lanfel. After hearing from Nisha herself, the girls come up with a plan to help solve Nisha and Lanfel's issues. The girls explain to Nisha about the Bianca Deli method. It is a special wine that is very strong, so most people are going to feel the buzz pretty quickly. The plan is to get Lord Lanfel drunk with this wine and make him confess his true feelings. Nothing like the taste of wine to get the mouth going, I guess. In addition, it is certain that when a person is drunk, they tend to be more vulnerable. Nisha thinks that it's not a bad idea and might be worth a shot. Assuming that Lanfel is either a lightweight or doesn't like alcohol, this might be Nisha's chance to get him to talk. Really? You're gonna get the man drunk? LOL, how devious. The next morning, Nisha and Lanfel are having breakfast together. She is pondering what to say, but he assumes she's upset, probably because of what happened yesterday. Moments later, Nisha finally finds the courage to invite Lanfel to a conversation later that evening, and he accepts. Afterward, Lanfel opens up and asks Raymond for advice. While they're having this conversation, nighttime comes. Nisha quickly ventures into the kitchen to look for the Bianca Deli wine, then proceeds to Lanfel's room. Before he can say anything, she offers him a glass of wine. As Lanfel takes a sip, he ponders over what he wants to convey to Nisha. His face flushes as soon as he empties the glass, confirming her assumption that he is a lightweight. So far, everything is going according to plan. Nisha pours his glass some more wine to get him drunk. She is confident because she doesn't get drunk easily, or so she thinks. Lanfel is drinking wine casually, unaware of her plan. He simply believes she's in a good mood. If you only knew her thought, Lord Lanfel. Nisha can be quite determined. After a few drinks, Nisha is already feeling so tipsy that she's starting to mumble. Admittedly, she had never drunk with a man like that before. A moment later, Lanfel apologizes for avoiding her recently. Nisha also acknowledges how she acts casually towards him and makes him uncomfortable. Lanfel quickly objects. She doesn't make him uncomfortable. In fact, he actually enjoys Nisha's company. Before telling her the real reason why he's avoiding her, he asks first if she is getting tired of living in the same place as him and wishes to go back to the palace. Gosh, he looks like a kicked puppy. You better explain yourself and stop hurting the puppy, Nisha. Apparently, Nisha wants to return to the palace, and the only reason she travels to the north is under King Frei's order. However, that doesn't mean that she wants to go back right away. Nisha reassures Lanfel that she is not sick of living there yet and that she enjoys her life there. She was just planning on stopping by her lab back then during her conversation with King Frei. Afterward, Lanfel feels relieved. He then explains that he doesn't want to be sad and hold her back, so he is preparing himself. He admits that he hates the thought of Nisha leaving, but the last thing he wants is to hold her back, hence why he's been avoiding her. No, how cute! He's such a considerate guy. Nisha panics because he's now being too honest. She then chugs the wine in hopes of getting drunk. She wants to know what's going on inside Lanfel's head and why he doesn't want her to leave. However, he couldn't find the right words to explain his feelings. Moreover, Nisha asks about her gifts for him. She proceeds to check his room to make sure that he didn't throw them away before. Lanfel notices that she is drunk already, so when he is about to take her back to her bedchamber, Nisha catches his hand and pushes him onto the bed. Oh, things are about to get even more interesting for our two budding couple at this point. Now, Nisha is on top of him. She asks Lanfel how he is so oblivious to how she feels about him. Shortly, she kisses him and asks further about his feelings for her. Woo! Her plan completely backfired. Our couple just kissed, people! After the heated makeout session, Lanfel confesses his love to Nisha. She feels a sense of relief because she thinks that she's getting ahead of herself for nothing. Yes, finally! Shortly after Nisha expresses how glad she is to hear that from Lanfel, she falls asleep in his arms. He then takes her safely to her room. He is such a gentleman. The next morning, Nisha wakes up in her room without any clue about what happened last night. Consequently, she starts looking for Lanfel. Concerning Nisha's state after being highly intoxicated, Lanfel asks her how she's feeling as soon as he sees her. He only realized that they were drinking the Bianca Deli after she passed out. Nisha is now well rested while Lanfel seems perfectly fine. He is not hungover even after drinking too much last night, which means he vividly remembers everything she did. He sure did, girl. You better prepare yourself. Her mission is to find out what happened the night before without being obvious, but Lanfel can see right through her. He then tells her that something happened, but doesn't include the details yet. Nisha then asks if she happened to kiss him because she notices his chapped lips. After he gives her an affirmative response, both of them are now too embarrassed. For this reason, she just tells him to pretend like nothing happened because she was so drunk that night that she didn't even realize what she was doing. With that, Lanfell assumes that Nisha kisses anyone she feels like when she's drunk, but she aggressively defends herself by saying that she never does such a thing. Hearing that makes him glad, so he tells her that they shouldn't pretend like it never happened. Afterward, Lanfell tells her that he needs to get going now, leaving her confounded. Every time Nisha has flashbacks to what happened that night, she goes crazy out of embarrassment. After hours of being tormented by her thoughts, she decides to have a refresher. She roams around the town alone to distract herself. Every time she reads the novel, she imagines the North would be pretty bleak and deserted, but while roaming around, it actually seems like a nice place to live and the villagers look happy. Momentarily, a random girl approaches and grabs Nisha's coat. Maya, the little girl, gives her a flower that she picked herself. She thinks that Nisha is the Duke's wife, but that's a misunderstanding. But admit it, the kid has great insight. You two will make such a great couple. Later on, Maya's mother comes and gets her. Nisha's head hurts even more because of Maya's assumption. Nisha continues to stroll around the town. A familiar bluebird draws near her. It is Isaac's bird. Shortly after, Isaac appears in front of her with a big smile. Uh-oh, I sense a jealous Lanfell coming on. Afterward, both of them are having a cup of tea with Lanfell in the manor. A while ago, he received a letter that mentioned someone from the palace would be visiting the North, but he didn't know that it would be Isaac. From Nisha's perspective, it feels like Lanfell is implying that he didn't expect her to walk in with Isaac. She then explains that she ran into him by accident while she was out on her walk earlier. Shortly, Nisha excuses herself and goes back to her room to give the men their private space. However, Isaac stops her and says that his purpose is to see her. Actually, Isaac comes to hand Nisha her gift from the king. She feels delighted as soon as she sees all the things from her lab that are very much needed. In addition, Isaac admits that he volunteered to come and take the opportunity to see his old friend, Nisha. Even though they just saw each other at the banquet not long ago, he still wanted to check up on her. Lanfell is now having a bad feeling about this. Jealousy is somehow evident, hence, he interrupts Nisha and Isaac's conversation. He then decides to take Isaac to his room, assuming that he is tired after the long trip. Oh, Lanfell, you couldn't be more obvious. You're like an adorable guard dog. On the other side of the North, the villain hears about what is going on in the manor. Her plan appears to be coming to fruition sooner than she expected. Later that night, Nisha starts to look for Isaac to check up on him, and when she finds Isaac in the hallway, both of them decide to catch up for a bit. Moreover, Isaac will be staying for 4 days in the North, so he requests that Nisha show him around since it is his first time there and he can't miss an opportunity like this. Meanwhile, Lanfell is secretly eavesdropping on them in the corner, looking like an adorable jealous puppy. Afterward, Isaac and Nisha proceed to stroll around town. Even at this late hour, there are still many people everywhere, maybe because the market is opening that night. Nisha believes that you can't roam around with an empty stomach, so she drags Isaac to a restaurant. They continue to catch up over dinner. So far, Nisha has been enjoying her stay in the North. Everyone is kind, and Lanfell has been very sweet. Little does she know that Lanfell is actually sitting across their table and secretly eavesdropping. As soon as they finish dinner, Nisha starts to show Isaac around. They decide to check out one more spot before they head back home. While on their way, Isaac tells Nisha to go ahead first because he needs to take care of something for a while. In truth, he wants to buy Nisha a gift as he passes by a stall that sells pretty items. The lady vendor with brown hair recommends a brand new green necklace, which he ends up buying. Meanwhile, Nisha is walking alone when she notices that someone is following her. She already knows that Lanfell has been following her since the plaza, so she tells him to stop hiding himself. Nisha assumes that maybe he is jealous. That's why he's spying on her and Isaac. Momentarily, Isaac arrives, and Nisha ends up in an awkward situation. As an excuse, Nisha says that Lanfell is willing to show them around since he knows all about the North. She manages to make up an excuse, but Isaac seems disappointed. Poor Isaac. You really are a great guy, but Lanfell and Nisha belong together. You can be with me instead. Anyway. To lessen the awkwardness, Nisha asks where Isaac went earlier, which reminds him of the necklace. Isaac gives her the beautiful green sparkly necklace as a souvenir for coming to the North. As soon as she wears it, a strange light comes out of it. Shortly after, the people start running away and panicking. The three of them have no clue what's happening. One of the villagers then reports to Lord Lanfell that monsters are attacking the village at the moment. Oh no, trouble has finally arrived! As everyone is trying to save themselves from the monster, Nisha freezes, unable to do anything about the situation yet. Meanwhile, Lanfell is determined to stop the monster no matter what it takes. The safety of the people is their top priority. To be of help, Nisha needs to evacuate as many people as possible. Momentarily, Nisha sees the lady vendor alone. She offers her some help, but in return for Nisha's kindness, the lady vendor unexpectedly uses magic on her. Oh no! She's a villain all along! The lady vendor uses teleportation magic on Nisha. Shortly, she gets teleported right in front of the monster, but she's unaware of it. All of a sudden, Nisha is now in front of Isaac and Lanfell. She doesn't know that the monster is behind her and she's getting hit. However, Lanfell won't let anything happen to her, so he hurriedly runs to protect her. Therefore, the monster hits him instead of Nisha. The next day, Lanfell wakes up in his room with bandages wrapped around his body. Fortunately, he is lucky enough because his cut isn't deep and the wound is already healing. After a while, Nisha comes into his room. The guilt eats her up because she thinks that it is her fault that he's hurt. If Isaac hadn't frozen the monster's legs with his magic before, Lanfell could have died. Luckily, they're able to chase the monster away. However, even Nisha's healing powers cannot handle Lanfell's wounds. Shortly, he reassures her that it is not her fault, so she doesn't have to feel bad. Given that, Nisha decides to just focus on solving the incident for now. Nisha tells Lanfell about the lady vendor and that she certainly has something to do with the monster. If a wizard is involved, it might be a bigger issue than they think. Lanfell is now full of questions, but most of all, he wonders how the wizard was able to control the wolf since it's a monster that doesn't go out of its territory. This situation is eerily similar to what happened 15 years ago. All things considered, Lanfell decides to return to the scene of the incident the next day. At the crime scene, he asks a knight who was on patrol at the time some questions. The knight explains that the monster came running towards the village all of a sudden before he was able to call for help. In addition, the monsters seem to be digging up here and there as if they're looking for something, hence, they start searching around that area. Later on, Isaac suddenly arrives. He thinks he should report the incident to the palace since it is a big deal. Moreover, Lanfell expresses gratitude to him for saving his life. Nisha is glad that the boys seem to have gotten closer. As they continue to search around, Nisha sees Maya crawling around the area. Nisha tells Maya that it's dangerous around and she shouldn't be there, but explains that she wants to help the monsters. According to Maya, the monsters were looking for their family members and she is certain of it. Lanfell thinks it is a reasonable suspicion because it matches the witness's statement. Shortly, he realizes that the only people who were attacked directly by the monsters were him and Nisha. To be exact, they were after Nisha at that time, and even the wizard knew the monster was going to attack her. Afterward, Nisha tells Maya to go back home, and the adults will handle everything. Maya cries out to Duchess Nisha as she wants to join them. Momentarily, Isaac and Lanfell are in shock after hearing that Nisha is a duchess. In her defense, everything is just a misunderstanding. After Maya is safely sent back home, the adults are left to work together. The boys are still in shock even after Nisha explains the grave misunderstanding. Not long after, Nisha finds a recent monster's footprint. Her necklace shines again, just like before. When the wolf appears all of a sudden, Lanfell grabs Nisha, which causes her to lose the necklace. This time, the monster isn't attacking them again. All along, the monster was actually after the necklace that Isaac gave her yesterday. The wolf monsters hover around the necklace for a while as they slowly vanish into the mountains. Nisha can feel faint magic from the gemstone. Afterward, they decide to dig up some more clues. Later on, they find a byway at the plaza where they see the monster's babies being caged. A spell is cast on the cage that blocks the monsters from entering and preventing them from escaping. After Nisha lets the little monsters out, they bring them to the manor and feed them. Lanfell plans to send them back to their pack as soon as they're well enough. Isaac suggests taking the necklace to the palace to have it examined. Additionally, Lanfell thinks that dark magic is involved in the situation. Given these points, Nisha concludes that dark mages are planning treason against their empire again. Treason can happen when the empire is the most peaceful. Lanfell believes that Nisha is being attacked because she seems like a threat to their plans. It's not the first time he has witnessed this. Afterward, Isaac heads towards the palace with the necklace. Since then, Lanfell rarely comes out of his office, so Nisha can't catch a glimpse of him. Later on, Nisha sees the messenger bird heading toward the office, and Lanfell runs out as soon as he receives the letter. Nisha comes looking for him everywhere and finds him in his room with his hands bleeding. She immediately hugs him as he starts crying. Lanfel falls to the floor and starts blaming himself for his family's deaths. Poor Lanfel, I can't bear to see him cry. After Lanfel calms down, Nisha asks him about what is happening. The letter that he received earlier states that inside the gemstone of the necklace, there were scents trapped inside that attracted the monsters. That's why they came into the village. In addition, Lanfel takes out a ring, which is in the same state as the necklace. The ring belongs to his late mother. Flashback to 15 years ago, the Delore family was happy and content. They had no idea that Rosanna was planning treason at that time. A maid who was next to Rosanna gave Lanfel a ring that she picked up, thinking that it belonged to the Grand Duchess. She asked him to give it to his mother. Later on, Lanfel told his mother about the monsters pursuing them while riding in the chariot. His mother assured him how much she loved him and that she could fight the monsters to protect their family. She promised to bring his father and older brother back as she told him to be a good boy and run back home first. Presently, Nisha feels empathetic while listening to Lanfel's story. He's the only one who survived, and his whole family died because he had that ring. Because they weren't able to do a proper investigation at the time, the occurrence was deemed an accident. But it turns out that everything was his fault. Lanfel sobs once again, saying that someone as weak and frail as him should not have survived. He wishes his parents and brother were still alive instead of him. No, don't say that. Nisha interrupts him in his thoughts. Lanfel gets assurance that his family's deaths were not in vain because they were able to save him and that it is not his fault. Additionally, he is strong, brave, and the kindest person who has always put others first. As they hug, Nisha encourages him to quit being so cruel to himself. As Nisha covers a snoozing Lanfell with a blanket, she is startled by Raymond. She explains to him how Lanfell just fell asleep after crying for hours. Understanding this, Raymond shares a tragic event from 15 years ago. It was when they were desperately searching for missing Lanfell. Raymond explains that Lanfell's life was never the same since then, but when Nisha came to the manor, it seemed as though Lanfell is happier. Embarrassed, she struggles to find the right words to say. Raymond pays this no heed and asks her to continue making the Duke happy. Before Raymond leaves the room, he inquires about a certain wizard who presumably gave Lanfell a red scarf. Hearing this, Nisha becomes all flustered, which Raymond seems to notice. After Raymond leaves the room, Nisha becomes increasingly fidgety. Apparently, she is the one who gave Lanfell his scarf 10 years ago. When Nisha was 5 years old, she was taken care of by a man named Merlin. Apparently, Nisha was supposed to be dead, but strangely came back to life. Due to this uncanny circumstance, her parents abandoned her. Talk about being ungrateful that their child is alive! Though Merlin was worried that Nisha might be upset about the news, quite the contrary occurred. She was overjoyed that she was different from others. Nisha concludes that this was probably when she reincarnated. At a young age, Nisha became Merlin's apprentice and followed him wherever he went. Though there were still some restrictions since she was young, despite their caution, Nisha found herself lost in the cold forest. That was when Nisha encountered a weeping Lanfell. She gave him her scarf to soothe him. Unfortunately, Lanfell wasn't able to move, leaving Nisha no choice but to search for Merlin to help them. But when they returned, Lanfell was no longer in the vicinity. This saddened the worried Nisha as she failed to even ask his name. As her recollection recedes and she looks at a sleeping Lanfell, she wonders how she could have ever forgotten a silly whiner like him. Though she already vowed to herself that she would avoid interacting with important characters from the novel, little did she know that at a young age she was already involved. Nisha then decides to keep this a secret as she gives him a goodnight kiss. The following day, Lanfell informs Raymond about the things that need to be done for their land. He mulls over Frei's investigation pertaining to the Dark Mage's schemes, and with that, he can at least take it easy. Seeing him so deep in thought, Raymond expresses his worries toward the Duke. Lanfell reassures him that he's only doing his duties as the overseer of the duchy. Defeated, Raymond exits the room and reports this to Nisha. The two both express their worries about Lanfell and are thinking of ways to alleviate the burden on his shoulders. Raymond then proposes to Nisha that she should take him to the Delore festival. Later that night, Nisha barges into Lanfell's office to invite him to the festival. Lanfell gladly accepts her invitation. The two then participate in the festival wearing cloaks to prevent any unwanted attention. Lanfell comments about how this festival is grander compared to recent years. Just as he is wondering about the last time he had partaken in such an event, he notices Nisha being quiet. He then excitedly invites Nisha to play games, which she warmly agrees to. Lanfel then tries a lot of games, but because of his strength, they have been disqualified from all the games they participated in. Despite that, the two are still happy to spend their time together. After playing for a while, they decide to find a place to rest. Shortly, Lanfel asks if he can hold Nisha's hand since both of them are feeling cold. Thinking that this is the perfect time, Lanfel confesses his feelings for Nisha once again, but now he demands an answer from her. Flustered, Nisha can't seem to compose any words to respond. Acknowledging this, Lanfel asks if he can kiss her instead. Nisha didn't say a word, but as a response, she closed her eyes. The two kiss under the cold and bright moonlight. In the palace, Frei expresses his loneliness to Isaac, noting that Lanfel rarely responds to his letters. After Isaac reassures that Lanfel's probably just busy, Frei inquires about the progress of their investigation. Isaac responds that there's been not much information about the Dark Mage's whereabouts. After sending Isaac off, Frei ponders the intentions of the Dark Mages. He briefly entertains the idea that this could be Lenok's doing. However, one mystery remains. There was no trace of magic when Lenok was in captivity. Realizing the absurdity of his assumptions, Frei dismisses his thoughts. Meanwhile, Lenok saunters through an empty hallway, gazing at a portrait of his late mother, Rosanna. He speaks to the portrait as if addressing her directly, declaring that he has finally acquired the manipulation ability she was once so proud of. Though Rosanna initially viewed him as worthless, she later found a use for him. For this reason, Lenok loathes her, but also feels sorry for her failure to eliminate a child 15 years ago. Lenok vows to continue her mission and eliminate Lanfel himself using newfound powers. In the manor, Nisha and Lanfel continue their kiss in the hallway. Feeling exposed, Lanfel suggests moving their intimate moment to his room. In the bedroom, they continue making out. Lanfel nonchalantly undresses himself, leaving Nisha flustered. But not wanting to be outdone by him, Nisha hops onto Lanfel, claiming she'll guide him through the night. Oh my, they're going at it so soon! Nisha wakes up beside Lanfel, who greets her with a very cheerful good morning. This flusters her, as if they hadn't just shared an intimate night together. Lanfel gets off the bed, telling her to get ready as he'll be waiting outside. As he leaves, Nisha lays back in bed, all flushed, wondering why Lanfel is being so casual about what just happened. Annoyed, she swiftly dresses and leaves the room. Upon exiting, she sees all the servants with blissful looks, clearly anticipating her coming out of the room. As the two prepare for the day, Lanfel unashamedly fixes Nisha's hair in front of everyone. Though she doesn't mind this gesture, the fact that everyone is talking about them makes her a bit uneasy. Over time, Nisha notices that Lanfel is overly clingy throughout the day. In an attempt to create some kind of boundary between them, she mentions his duties that need attention. However, Lanfel reveals that he already ensured everything was done so he could spend the day with her. Picking up on her uneasiness, Lanfel worriedly asks if it's bothering her. Though Nisha denies it, she's concerned about neglecting her own obligations. She was originally tasked with investigating a curse, but now feels distracted by their newfound closeness. As Nisha rambles erratically about her concerns, a guilty Lanfel decides to be upfront with her. Stunned by his revelation, Nisha expresses both relief and bafflement at what she just heard. Worried, Lanfel asks if she's upset that he hid such important information from her. A few days later, Nisha receives an invitation from the palace. However, this doesn't amuse her at all. If anything, it only makes her feel anxious. She's worried that everyone in the palace might know about her relationship with Lanfel. As if the idea of reincarnating into the world of a novel wasn't absurd enough, the fact that she's now the love interest of one of the main characters is just the cherry on top. Determined not to sit idly, Nisha continues her investigation into the curse. To find clues, she starts asking the servants, who seem to have problems of their own. Things in the kitchen, as well as their personal belongings, seem to have been mysteriously going missing. Nisha devises a plan to catch the culprit. She and the servants purposely let an item be stolen, but this time, Nisha casts a tracking spell on it. After the culprit takes the bait, they follow the trail, and end up finding a goofy-looking cat hoarding all the missing items behind an uncanny-looking bush. After solving this peculiar problem, Nisha realizes that every issue around the household has been small and insignificant. Lanfel, who's been watching everything unfold, hugs a busy Nisha. To come up with an excuse to be near her, he lies about needing her for something. Nisha informs Lanfel that it's getting late and she needs to rest. However, he can't stand being away from her and begs her to cuddle for just a little while. Unable to resist Lanfel's innocent and adorable demeanor, she lets it happen. As Lanfel continues to cuddle her, Nisha's imagination runs crazy. already thinking of their soon-to-be kids. In the king's palace, Frei discusses with Isaac and the other knights about their newfound information, which entails dark mages' whereabouts. Shortly thereafter, as they anticipated, a knight enters the room and reports that they found the location of the dark mages. To show his appreciation, Frei asks for the soldier's name. The soldier introduces himself as Andrew Elga. Acknowledging this, Frei playfully calls him Andy and requests that he lead the way to the mage's location. Meanwhile, Lanfell wonders about the fates of the dark mages after Rosanna's death. Though their numbers have been cut down, there has been an unexpected resurgence in their strength. He also ponders their strange actions. They're usually cautious, but for some reason, they're willing to reveal themselves now. Overwhelmed by this predicament, Lanfell asks Raymond to prepare his bath. On the other hand, Nisha has just finished her usual errands around the house after failing to find clues about the curse. She wonders why she hasn't been bothered by Lanfell for a while. She then decides to pay him a visit for a change. After asking a maid about his whereabouts, she rushes towards him before the maid can explain that he's actually bathing. Cooling his head in the bath, Lanfell is reminded of the uneasiness he felt when he last saw Lenok. Thinking that Lenok is likely the mastermind behind the Dark Mage's actions, but his train of thought is interrupted when Nisha knocks on the door. Hearing Nisha's voice, Lanfell hurriedly stands up to get the door, but unfortunately slips. The commotion worries Nisha, so she enters the room and witnesses a flustered Lanfell on the ground. She teases him a bit before giving him space to change. Lanfell asks her what prompted her visit. She replies that she just misses him. This embarrassed the Duke, but shortly he decides to tell her about his plans, and she offers to accompany him if he wants to visit Lenok. Unbeknownst to them both, one of the twin servants has been spying on them using an orb, a magic crystal transmitting their conversation. The person behind the orb is none other than Lenok. A few days later, Nisha decides to accompany Lanfell to return the now fully grown puppies. Though Lanfell is initially hesitant, he eventually gives in to Nisha's persuasion. After expressing their farewells to the servants, the two proceed toward the snowy mountains. However, despite the paths being somewhat dangerous, they treat this as a date, with Lanfell wishing for it to become a regular occurrence. As they walk, Lanfell ponders how little he knows about Nisha beyond her reputation. This prompts him to ask her to share more about herself so he can get to know her better. As she answers, Nisha struggles to leave out details pertaining to her death and reincarnation. Instead, Nisha shares her experiences dealing with people who talk behind her back. Hearing this, Lanfell tries to console her, but she reassures him that she doesn't mind. Shortly thereafter, Lanfell shyly asks Nisha about her relationship with Isaac. Recognizing his concern, Nisha warmly reassures him that Isaac is just a friend. To further ease his worries, she kisses him and expresses her love for him. Aw, Lanfell is a bit jealous of her relationship with Isaac. How cute! The two decide to rest for a while, and Nisha continues to share her story. She recounts the time she saw an abandoned Isaac. His magic power was weak, so he was outcast by his family, so she decided to help him using magic, customizing a glove for him with Frei's assistance. In addition, she shares how she created the wall that allows others to freely use their powers, marking her first major accomplishment at the palace. Hearing this, Lanfell falls for her all over again. As their conversation concludes, Nisha states that there's still plenty of time for them to get to know each other better. Lanfell smiles warmly and looks forward to learning more about her in the future. As they continue to traverse inside the snowy mountains, Nisha understands why Lanfell was initially so worried. The pathway looks grim and dangerous. Then, they suddenly hear a loud howl echoing through the woods. However, they aren't frightened because they thought it must have been the puppy's mother. They then decide to follow the howl, but after a while the puppies suddenly rush toward a bush, revealing the mother wolf and presumably the father. The parents slowly approach Nisha and Lanfell to express their gratitude. Though Lanfell is a bit vigilant at first, Nisha reassures him. As she pets the mother wolf, Lanfell on the other hand is being overwhelmed by licks by the father wolf. Nisha decides to take numerous photos using a camera she created with her magic. After sending their best regards to the wolves, they decide to return to the manor. Nisha expresses her joy at seeing the wolves earlier, admitting she was quick to judge them as harmful but now realizes her mistake. Since it's getting late, Lanfell suggests staying in a nearby city, Gateway City, Quillen. Nisha feels nervous about the unexpected turn of events. She wonders why such a remote place is bustling with people. Lanfell explains that it's because it's the only town almost in the middle of nowhere. He also adds that there are many attractions in the area. Nia suggests returning here whenever they have time. The two continue searching for lodging, Unfortunately, finding a place to stay for the night is actually harder than they thought, especially in such a bustling street in a remote area. As they struggle to find a place to stay, Nisha's imagination runs wild. She ponders on taking advantage of Lanfel's status to find a lodging. On the contrary, Lanfel is overjoyed by the time they're spending together. Soon after, they see a crowd waiting for a restaurant to open. Just as they're about to leave, a whistle blows, marking the opening of the store. They are unfortunately, or fortunately, caught in the stampede, which makes Lanfel fall into Nisha, embarrassing the two. Past midnight, the town has gone quiet, yet the two are still aimlessly walking around the streets. Luckily, Lanfel spots a vacant establishment in the distance and rushes towards it. Upon arrival, they inquire about rooms, but there's only one available. The two seem too embarrassed to choose it, despite having slept together already. The landlady points this out, wondering why they couldn't just take the single room since they pretty much look like a couple. Paying their flustered reactions no heed, she tells them to leave if they're not going to take it. Shortly, a man enters the establishment also looking for a room, leaving them no choice but to take it. Upon entering the room, Lanfel suggests he'll sleep on the floor. However, Nisha disagrees, fearing he might get sick again. Instead, she offers for the two of them to share the bed together. Nisha's inconsideration towards Lanfel's urges upsets him. He tells her that he's a man with urges, and if she continues to be casual, he may not be able to contain himself, as he leans closer to Nisha's face. Don't tell me they're going to do it again already! As Nisha closes her eyes and prepares for a kiss, she wonders what's taking Lanfel's lips to reach her so long. She impatiently opens her eyes, only to see him retreating, covering his face in embarrassment. She embarrassedly asks if he's just messing with her. Lanfel shamefacedly admits that he wasn't really planning on kissing her. It's just that she seemed to want it so badly. Stunned, Nisha is mortified to hear this come out of his mouth. Is Nisha really that down bad, Lanfel? You're the one who's down bad. Embarrassed, she quickly covers herself and hides underneath the blanket, telling Lanfel to just go to sleep since she's too ashamed to talk to him at the moment. To soothe her, Lanfel decides to lie beside her and embrace her. Worried that she might be taking all the blanket for herself, Nisha suggests that he should come under the blanket as well. This immediately flusters Lanfel, which annoys Nisha further. Not wanting to piss her off, he quickly lies next to her, and just as he's about to say something, he's met with a loud snore from Nisha, who has already fallen fast asleep. As Nisha turns toward him and embraces him in her sleep, Lanfel admires her for a moment before softly kissing her goodnight. Upon returning to the manor, their arrival is celebrated enthusiastically by the servants. Nisha catches up with the twins about everything that happened during their trip, but is interrupted by Lanfel, who proposes that she should rest more. After walking her to her bedroom, she expresses her gratitude towards Lanfel. Soon after, Nisha lies down on the bed she missed so much. After a while, though she is sound asleep at first, she suddenly wakes up struggling to catch her breath. Luckily, Lanfel arrives just in time and urgently carries her out of the blazing room. The manor is engulfed in a massive storm of fire! As Lanfel carries Nisha out of the manor, he explains the situation. Apparently, he woke up because of the commotion, and before he knew it, the manor was covered in flames. Just as Lanfel is about to head towards the second floor, Nisha catches a glimpse of Linda, one of the servant twins, stranded in the study room. Lanfel carefully lays Nisha down and swiftly rushes over to rescue Linda. Nisha decides to follow him, and as they traverse through the flames, they see Linda eerily standing amidst the blazing fire. As Nisha approaches her, she senses unusual magic emanating from Linda. Suddenly, Linda passes out, and Lanfel quickly catches her. As they run toward the exit, Nisha notices the ignition source near where Linda was standing. She suspects that Linda might have started the fire. However, debris falls, trapping them as they move closer to safety. Nisha suggests escaping through the window as desperation sets in. Lanfel disagrees, saying it's too dangerous since they're carrying Linda. Nisha reassures him and asks him to trust her plan. She devises a way for them to land safely. Wrapping themselves with curtain blinds, she throws out a piece of cotton she found earlier. Upon hearing Nisha's signal, they jump out of the window together. Nisha quickly casts a spell on the cotton, multiplying it to create a cushion for their landing. They all land safely, and after a brief celebration of their escape, Nisha passes out in Lanfel's arms due to exhaustion from using too much magic. A little while later, Nisha wakes up. Lanfel explains that she fainted because of her exerting too much energy to use her magic earlier. She then asks about Linda's well-being, but she seems to be in a dire state. Despite his discouragement, Nisha rushes to check on Linda and treat her using her magic. She promises Lanfel that she'll rest as soon as she's done helping Linda. As she inspects Linda's body, Nisha discovers an eerie yet familiar mark on her chest. It's a mark Rosanna used to manipulate people. Nisha is alarmed as to why such a mark is on Linda's chest, wondering who could have possibly placed it there. But the only people that can possibly cast it aside from Rosanna herself is someone from the same lineage as her. After Nisha and Raymond report their findings to Lanfell, he immediately suspects Lenok. He regrets not paying more attention to him. But now that he's potentially capable of using magic, he's become a threat. Chloe kneels down, desperately begging for forgiveness from Lanfell. He reassures her that he doesn't view her sister as a traitor. After Chloe calms down, Nisha asks if she noticed anything unusual in Linda's behavior recently. She explains that it was 3 months ago that Linda started to have problems with her memory. This isn't a coincidence, as this was around the time that Nisha also came to the manor. Few moments later, a servant barges into the room to report about a worn-out avian carrying a letter. The bird's name is Louis and is the official messenger of the Imperial Palace. The letter contains news about the current state of the Imperial Palace. After Frei and his team led an investigation, the palace was raided and everyone that was left is currently being held captive. Most especially Empress Stella. Lanfell concludes that all of this must be Lenok's doing, and that they should immediately head over there to aid them. Nisha offers to come with him as she hopes for the safety of Stella. Meanwhile, in the palace, Stella is currently being subjugated by her own servants. Just as she trembles in fear and confusion, a familiar face appears before her. It's none other than Lenok. Stella asks him a series of questions pertaining to his actions, but every time she does, he refuses to answer properly. Lenok decides to have her under his control, but to his confusion, it isn't working. As he realizes what's going on, he laughs in amusement. Apparently, Stella is pregnant with Frei's child, preventing the manipulation spell from working. As Lenok leaves the room, he commands the servants to contain Stella for the time being. Oh my, at least he didn't do anything to her. After checking if anyone else has the same mark as Linda, Lanfel and Nisha bid farewell to the rest of the servants, entrusting Raymond with the manor. The two of them begin to rush towards the palace on horseback. Meanwhile, at the Custonia Mountains, Frei worries about Stella. Suddenly, Isaac bursts in to announce the arrival of Lanfel and Nisha. They then inform him of what's happening inside the palace. Frustrated, Frei apologizes for not being able to monitor Lenok's actions. Lanfel dismisses this since he's not here to point fingers. Rather, he demands an explanation as to why such a thing happened in the first place. A familiar voice then replies to him. Merlin, Nisha's foster parent. After his brief reunion with Nisha, he proceeds to explain about the events that unfolded in the palace. Apparently, a day after Frei began their expedition, they returned already. Skeptical, Merlin decides to see his arrival for himself while disguising as a butler, but he only saw Lenok, emanating a malicious magic around him. By this time, Lenok had already manipulated everyone in the palace. Merlin then soon rushed to Stella's chambers, but she was already being held captive. Fortunately, it seemed that the manipulation magic didn't work on her. Having no way of accessing her, this leaves Merlin no choice but to head to Frei to report this immediately. Nisha reproaches herself since her own invention is being used to the enemy's advantage, but her feeling is short-lived after Lanfell reassures her. Frei also shares his sentiments that it's not Nisha's fault. Frei wonders why someone like Lenok, who wasn't born with magic, is able to use it now. Merlin intervenes, implying that he knows something about this phenomenon. He claims that Lenok and Nisha may have obtained their powers in the same manner. The group wonders whatever Merlin means by what he said. He then asks Nisha if it's all right to tell them the truth right then and there. Nisha, fully anticipating this time to come, accedes. After giving her nod of approval, he continues, explaining that Nisha's origin is rather a mystery. Though it is not impossible for a commoner to be born with magic, for Nisha, it wasn't the case at all. Nisha wasn't born with magic. She acquired her powers after coming back from the dead. Worried, Lanfell seeks affirmation from Nisha. Frei also expresses his bafflement as he has never heard nor read such a case before. Merlin explains that her revival isn't in and of itself a valid explanation for her acquired powers. That's why he's been doing research for the past 2 decades. Lanfell concludes that the only way they can find the truth about this is asking Lenok himself. Merlin then leads the group to a person who he thinks can help them. As they begin their journey, Nisha is still preoccupied. If what Merlin is saying is true, then there's a likelihood that Lenok also reincarnated in the world of the novel. Otherwise, his source of power must be different. Meanwhile, in the palace, Lenok and Stella are talking to 2 Marchionesses. The way the ladies interact with Lenok seems like they perceive him as Frei, as Stella anticipates. Frustrated, Stella resigns to the idea that everyone in the palace must be under his control already. Because of Stella's discomfort, she ends their tea time abruptly. As they return to her room, she demands space as she promises to not flee. Lenok is doubtful, saying that she might try something funny once she gets back to her room. Lenok explains that since he's being perceived as the Emperor, it would be weird for him to suddenly avoid the Empress. As Lenok continues to ramble, Stella wonders when's the right time to use the ring that Nisha gave her. Having had enough of his pointless chatter, Stella demands to know the reason behind his newfound powers. Though Lenok said that it might be harmful to the baby if he does explain it, an annoyed Stella insists. Lenok then proceeds to tell her that he took his own life when he was banished. Bewildered by what she just heard, Stella asks what he means by what he said. Lenok shares about what happened when they banished him to the north. He was left alone in a rundown cabin with nothing left to drink but the poison his mother gave him. As soon as he drank the poison, he immediately collapsed to the agony of death. Just as his consciousness began to recede, he had wished that at least before his tragic death, he could at least use magic. Moments later, before he knew it, he woke up with magic power emanating from his hands. Stella is devastated upon hearing this story. She claims that they were supposed to revoke his banishment after things have calmed down in the palace. However, to Lenok, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. He was left alone in a rundown cabin with nothing left to drink but the poison her mother gave him. Just as Lenok is about to leave the room, Stella proposes that he should just stop his schemes. However, he ignores her pleas and leaves the room. Meanwhile, an annoyed Nisha asks Merlin why they couldn't just teleport to where his friend is. They have been walking for a while and she's exhausted. Merlin explains that his friend doesn't want him using teleportation magic. Few hours later, they arrived at their destination to be greeted by an old lady. After apologizing for her late appearance, she introduces herself as Pamela Rolando, which surprises Nisha and Lanfell. Apparently, Duchess Rolando is a mysterious individual. People in the Empire started to doubt their family's existence despite being one of the noble families. Curious, Frei asks where Duke Rolando is. Their surprise deepens as she reveals that she herself is Duke Rolando as well. The group is left dumbfounded as the revelation dawns on them. Duke Rolando and Duchess Rolando are the same person. Ever since Pamela was a young child, she already identified herself as a tomboy. She's playful and always messes around with the servants. The servants thought that she'd outgrow her delinquent phase and act more demure as she grew up. However, their own thoughts betrayed them when Pamela became a teenager and wanted her hair to be cut short. Her parents were supportive of her cross-dressing habits, so it wasn't much of an issue for her. Apparently, the reason why she decided to dress like a man is to bypass the restrictions of noble women having to have a legal guardian if they want to go to social gatherings. One day, Pamela received tons of love letters from women who saw her come and go of their manor. Rumors about a hidden son of the Rolando family began to spread. Troubled, she went to her parents, but they just laughed this off. Though she dislikes the uncomfortable dresses and the restrictions of being a lady, she never can escape who she is. But her parents suggested that if she can do both, then she should do it, not having to choose to be a duke or a duchess. She chose whichever persona fits depending on the social gathering, but ever since she lost her leg, she stopped going to such events, thus concluding her story. Pamela tells that only a few people know of her different persona, which includes Merlin and Lanfell's parents. This piques Lanfell's curiosity, prompting him to ask about their relationship. She reveals that they were once close friends with his mother, and that she used to be worried a lot about him. After their conversation ends, they are being shown around the manor. However, Lanfell decides to accompany Nisha to her room himself. Nisha expresses gratitude and quickly shoos him away so they can just both rest. Just as she enters the room, she hears a knock on the door. Assuming it's Lanfell, she opens it, but it's Isaac instead. Isaac wishes to speak with Nisha, so she welcomes him and offers a seat. Nisha then forces a conversation between them, but Isaac notices and asks her to act normal. Apparently, she always knew how Isaac felt about her. Despite the two being best friends, his actions would indicate that he had always liked her romantically, which makes it difficult for her to act normally, especially since news has already spread about her relationship with Lanfell. Isaac notices her consideration, so after giving her an ointment for her scratches, he promptly leaves the room to not prolong her discomfort. Later that night, Nisha throws herself on her bed, pondering about everything that has happened recently. Meanwhile, Lanfell eagerly wants to see Nisha, but Frei is holding him back. Frei then teases him so that he would stay, but this just annoys Lanfell, making him want to leave more. Going back to Nisha, she assumes that Lanfell must already be resting since he's not bothering her. Unfortunately, the same does not apply to her. She seems restless. Perhaps it's because she's preoccupied with something. She then decides to go outside to get some fresh air. There, she saw Pamela, also out for some fresh breeze because she can't sleep as well. Nisha is obviously uneasy around Pamela. She doesn't know what to talk about. Pamela breaks the ice by commenting on how much Nisha has grown. This piqued her curiosity, asking her if she knew her. She claims to have known Nisha ever since she was young. Pamela jests, saying that she should have adopted Nisha herself. As time passes by, the two seem to enjoy their conversation. Before she realized it, Pamela was actually trying to soothe her all along. After Nisha expresses her appreciation, the two then go back to the manor. With an unexpected turn of events, Nisha finds herself in bed with Pamela. Apparently, Pamela wants to sleep on her old bed, which is the same bed as Nisha's. After a while of pondering the possible future she could have had with Pamela, Nisha then sleeps soundly. The following day, Pamela shares her sentiments after hearing the situation from Merlin. She concludes that everyone in the palace must be in Lenok's control already. Apparently, when using her powers, Rosanna struggled with side effects. Nisha affirms, but wonders how Pamela knows about this. Lanfell wonders the same thing, so he asks her. Pamela reveals that her family excels in shadow manipulation magic, which is good for espionage. One day, Pamela was spying on Rosanna, but tragically had an accident leading her to lose one of her legs. When she was about to report her findings, the Emperor at that time had already passed away. She regrets not having approached Frei sooner, but this is all pointless now. The group then plans on the best course of action in order to figure out Lenok's weakness. They continue to share opinions for a while until Pamela finally speaks out. Pamela suggests that she's going to hold a banquet at her manor, leaving the group stunned. Baffled, Frei asks if Pamela knows what she's talking about. It is Nisha that first realized her intention, to draw people from the Empire. Despite Pamela's withdrawn existence from society, she still holds an amazing reputation. So it would be natural for her banquet to attract attendees, most especially Lenok. Though Lenok wouldn't be able to perform his schemes in the banquet, he will surely find a way to use this to his advantage. However, while Lenok is away, they can investigate the current situation of the palace. Pamela declares that the banquet will be open 3 days from now. Being the organizer and head of this plan, Pamela then assigns the tasks to everyone in the room. Nisha proposes to be at the banquet, gathering information. This excites Lanfell, but unfortunately, they're going to be wearing disguises. The one who's more excited about this is none other than Pamela herself. Pamela used to make all the dresses she wears herself, so she's not in need of maids. Later that night, Lenok received an invitation for the banquet. He then quickly informs Stella, amused by her influence. Lenok is aware that this is a trap, and that Pamela is trying to set up a trap to help Stella. He then realizes that perhaps he's not their target, but rather the information about the palace. Just as he's about to leave the room, he suddenly feels a surge of pain in his head. He quickly exits as he begins to feel dizzy. As his condition worsens, he's determined to complete his mission as soon as possible. On the day of the banquet, Nisha is dressed like a manly noble. On the other hand, Lanfell is dressed up as a muscular maiden. Nisha is enthralled by Lanfell's dazzling appearance. She is unable to compose her words as she gazes at Lanfell, but this makes him uneasy. He wants to change at first, but hearing her resounding praise relieves him. A little while later, people from the Empire are starting to arrive. Nisha is worried about Lanfell's disguise, but he reassures her that Pamela did a great job dressing him up. Lanfell then unknowingly flirts with Nisha, which makes her flush red all over. Embarrassed, she suggests they join the banquet already. Though they initially plan to blend in with the crowd, they can't seem to avoid the attention they're getting. Nisha resigns to their fate and just goes along with it. The two decide to make an even grander impression as they take the center of the manor to showcase their elegant dance. Going along with the plan, the two separate to do their agendas. Nisha eavesdrops on the secretary and the chief of staff's conversation. Apparently, Lenok is still closely monitoring Stella. She also overheard them talking about a familiar symptom, memory loss, just like Linda. Nisha then introduces herself to the two as Noah Rudney. She offers to help them with made-up medicinal herbs. In order to fish out more information, she asks if they need something else. They said that aside from medicines for memory loss, they also want an herb for headaches for His Majesty. Nisha concludes that this must be the weakness they've been looking for. Nisha then ends their conversation after promising to send an herb as soon as she can. She feels proud of the fact that she can now possibly save Stella with this information. Lanfell, on the other hand, is overwhelmed by all the women fawning over her muscular physique. Fortunately, he got to know someone who recently had tea with Stella, but he still has a hard time doing a favorable impression. Earlier, Nisha suggested a pose that would make him more ladylike. Remembering what Nisha taught him, he immediately poses as she asks a question to the Marchioness Heidi. Though the method is effective, it isn't because of his cute looks, rather it's because of his bulging muscles. Heidi responds that Stella did seem a bit off with the Majesty. Another lady claims to have brought desserts to Stella, but when she ate one, she suddenly fell ill. The ladies then got all excited, thinking Stella might be pregnant. Lanfel quickly reports his findings to Nisha at their rendezvous. She also shares her findings. Worried, Lanfel suggests that Nisha stays in Pamela's care as he senses an inevitable battle fast approaching. Nisha confronts Lanfel as to why he feels so agitated. He reveals that ever since the fire, he's been having nightmares about him being alone. In that dream, he finds all of his loved ones dead, except for Nisha, who's nowhere to be found. She then hugs him to comfort the anxious Lanfel. She then proceeds to console him even more, promising that if he still feels anxious, he can call upon her name. The two then kiss as they promise to spend time together once everything has been resolved. Later that night, both of them report to Frei about everything. Hearing this, Frei grows restless as he worries about Stella. Lanfel then tries to calm him down because being rash would pose more risk. They also inform Merlin about Lenok's possible side effects. However, they still struggle to figure out when exactly Lenok uses his magic. Soon after, Pamela volunteers to investigate this herself. The following morning, Stella wakes up in her bedroom to be greeted by one of the maids. The maid informs her that Duke Rolando wishes to meet with her. After granting Pamela with Stella's presence, she expresses her appreciation. However, the same is not applicable for Stella, who is skeptical about Pamela's intentions. The night before, Nisha discourages Pamela to go to the palace alone, but she reassures her that she will take all the necessary precautions to prevent any information they know from leaking out. Having no other choice, Frei acknowledges her plan. Seeing that Stella is still doubtful of her, she then gives her a present. The present contains hairpins as decoys, but underneath it is a handkerchief she wove herself for Frei. This implies that Frei is the one who sent Pamela. Later that day, Pamela strolls around the garden, but is interrupted by the Chamberlain. He informs he's here to escort her to her room since the transportation of her luggage is finished. Anticipating this, Pamela follows the servant. Meanwhile, Nisha and the others are still awaiting for Pamela's return. However, sufficient time has already passed to indicate that she's being held captive in the palace as well. This prompts Merlin to decide that they should go after her. Before they leave, Lanfel grips Nisha's arms, stating to never leave his side. Strangely enough, when they arrived at the front of the palace, there seemed to be no knights guarding the vicinity. They decide to sneak behind the palace just in case. As they enter the palace, Lanfel feels the eerie atmosphere around the area. Suddenly, an arrow was shot, scraping Frei's cheek. It's revealed that Lenok has been anticipating their arrival all along. At the palace, Lenok is on the balcony, smiling at Lanfel as they arrive. The palace is full of people who are under Lenok's spell. He's boasting as he claims that it's his palace. He welcomed them, but he expected them to come. He already knows about the infiltration since he was being accompanied by the Duke Rolando all throughout. Hearing this, all of them are in shock. Suddenly, the knights aim their bows towards them, and Lanfel then prepares for an attack. Isaac unleashes his ice-cold magic, preventing the arrows from hitting them, while the knights with swords are knocked out by the king and Lanfel. That was cool, Isaac! Meanwhile, Nisha helps the front lines, using Taekwondo as her defense against the controlled soldiers. But it seems that some of the servants can use magic, prompting them to be extra careful in attacking. She then comes up with a solution, unleashing a giant slime monster. Nisha commands the slime to immobilize those who use magic, immediately following suit. However, they soon notice that Lenok has run off. Instantly, they all split up to search for him. Lanfel and Nisha proceed to the annex to search for Stella, where they encounter magical butterflies along the way. Butterflies that were part of the ring Nisha gave to her. But these butterflies could only mean that she's in trouble. Hurrying to the annex, Nisha thinks that Lenok is with Stella, so they must make haste. A while ago, Stella woke up in a room with cracked walls. Hearing the loud noises outside, she hurriedly tried to open the door to look for Frei, but someone blocked her way. It's Lenok! She immediately activated the ring, hoping for someone to rescue her. Moments later, Lenok comes back, feigning unbotheredness. It turns out they're in Rosanna's manor, a manor belonging to Lenok's mother. Stella wonders what Lenok is up to, but surprisingly, Lenok has no plans other than wearing out the king and others outside to make his escape. Unexpectedly, Lenok vomits blood, one of the side effects of using up his magic all at once. He then states his plan of having Stella in front of their escape and using his power to use the people as a human shield against King Frei. Lenok's powers are a double-edged sword. The power to manipulate others is convenient, yet having the side effects, like what his mother experienced, makes it inconvenient. His mother exhibited psychological issues upon using too much of her power, a sight that made young Lenok fear his mother's powers. But when he found out that he had the same power as his mother, he accepted his fate. That's just life, Lenok. However, unlike his mother, Lenok can control someone by leaving a mark with a spell on them. He can also control people from afar so long as an item imbued with his magic is within reach. But at this rate, he might soon reach his limits. He needs to finish all this before his powers run out. Stella tries to talk Lenok out of it, suggesting that he stop already. She notices that he's in pain, yet he acts like everything is all right. But Lenok blatantly rejects her opinions. Outside, the magical butterfly stops in front of a worn-down building. Stella must be inside. It was Rosanna's place. The place where Lanfell saw Rosanna end herself and where she cursed him. A foreboding threat is coming. Without turning back, Lenok attempts to use his power on Stella, telling her that she can't do anything from her situation. Lenok then becomes obsessive and acts like a psycho, gripping Stella's mouth to stop her from talking any further and triggering his unfavorable impatience. He's about to slap her when the sudden presence of people distracts him. He expected for someone to come. By the stairs, the butterfly slowly fades, indicating that Stella is nearby. Out of the blue, Lanfell shares his story from his past encounter with Rosanna, giving Nisha a clue as to why he was nervous earlier outside the manor. Nisha feels strange wandering around the manor where the villain of the original plot stayed. Then, Nisha scans for traces of Lenok's magic. She detects faint but inconsistent magic traces on the floor, which may mean that something must have happened before they arrived at the scene. They decide to proceed upstairs since the ground floor seems to be in the clear. Upon taking the stairs, Lanfell hears a screeching noise inside a room and he immediately grabs her, urging her to stay behind him in an attempt to protect her. The two then go to check the door, seeing if someone's there. But as they open it, Nisha doesn't realize there's a trap below her feet. The floor under her begins to crumble, but she pushes Lanfell away forcibly before she falls straight down into the trap. As Nisha plummets, she uses her magic to summon a parachute to break her fall. She made it when she was a kid, but it's come in handy right now. Sometimes silly things have their own purpose. Lanfell, worried, cries out loud by the mouth of the hole. But when he hears her reassure him, he feels relieved. He's about to look for a rope to save her, but she declines. Using her invention megaphone, Nisha tells Lanfell that he doesn't need to search for a rope. She'll be looking for clues inside the hole, and Lanfell must guard the room. Nisha starts to walk down the basement. It turns out it's a dungeon, which would mean that illegal businesses were run here. She then sees a bedroom and takes a look inside. There, she finds a book lying on the bed. It's a diary written by a child. But she hears something coming toward her, and in a quick motion, she swings her sword at the person behind her. It's none other than Lenok, who's amused to see a mage like Nisha use a sword for defense. Nisha begins asking about the Empress's whereabouts, but she notices the instability of Lenok's magic. It looks like it would burst any minute now. Likewise, Lenok also draws his sword against her. Little does Nisha know that Lenok is actually a better swordsman than the king himself. Surprise, surprise. In the blink of an eye, Nisha gets knocked out. When she awakens, she finds herself in a cell with the Empress. Her hands are also cuffed with magical handcuffs, preventing her from using magic. Soon enough, Lenok confronts Nisha, lashing out on her. He's been having a hard time using his powers on her. How could someone not of royal descent be able to repel his powers? Lenok throws Nisha to the ground, and she suspects that Lenok tried using magic on her, yet failed for some reason. She thinks that it might be because her soul is reincarnated in the novel. The Empress, Stella, checks on Nisha, but she soon freezes. Lenok is about to swing his sword at them. The two brace themselves, but luckily Lanfell has come to their aid, blocking the sword that was supposed to hit Nisha. A knight in shining armor once again! Looking back, Lenok was just a normal boy with his father as a king and his mother as a concubine. He was very introverted and had a frail body without any magic. He thought that he was no use at all. He craved to be loved by his parents, and yet he was rejected every time. He channeled everything in swordsmanship, even matching the skills of the prince. But even that wasn't enough to please his mother. Finally, he accepted the truth. He would never receive any love from his parents. As a result, he detached himself from everyone and lived like a puppet. Not me low-key pitying him. At present, Lenok fights against Lanfell, angered at how he tried to harm Nisha. But Lenok finds himself in a difficult position. He totally underestimated Lanfell's swordsmanship skills. While the two are busy sparring, Nisha tries to untie the rope and cuffs that bound her, but it's to no avail. Unexpectedly, Stella has cut herself loose, and she helps Nisha break free. At last, Lanfell manages to corner Lenok, isolating him from his sword. However, Lenok plays dirty, launching a final attack as he charges towards Lanfell with accumulated magic power. Lenok stabs himself with Lanfell's sword so he could surprise him with an attack. All of them are shocked at what he just did, purposely hurting himself just to provoke Lanfell. Lenok, in a fit of bloody coughs, takes the chance to tell Lanfell the truth. It was him, Lenok, who killed Lanfell's family. He is really trying to provoke and distract him because news like that is like running him over with a huge truck. It seems that Lanfell's family has been a nuisance to his mother since then, so he created a plan that made Rosanna commend him for the first time in his life. Lanfell's anger clouds his thoughts, falling for Lenok's trap of distracting him. Just as Lanfell is caught off guard, Lenok launches himself for an attack, unleashing his power at Lanfell. In a desperate attempt to save Lanfell, Nisha manages to break free from her cuffs, hurriedly running towards him. Then a big blast of magic erupts from the manor. Back at the palace, the king and the Grand Wizard are fighting off the controlled knights when a sudden change is noticed. The spell has been lifted and all the knights regain consciousness of their actions. On the other hand, we see Lenok knocked into a wall. He looks drained and hollow. As he slowly fades, he stares at Nisha holding Lanfell in her arms, crying. What happened? It's been 3 days since the incident, and Lanfell is still unconscious. Lenok has casted some unknown magic on him, the cause of his long slumber. Nisha tries her best looking for clues and a solution for Lanfell's condition. Unable to take it any longer, she bursts into a fit of tears as she realizes that the rumors of the witch's curse on the Grand Duke has become a sad and cruel reality. It's like a huge slap in her face, as if the universe is telling her, "I told you so." At the palace where Lanfell is confined to, Nisha and the Grand Wizard stand by his room. They tirelessly hope that he wakes up from his slumber soon. Days go by and they still have no idea about the magic Lenok put on Lanfell. The Grand Wizard suggests something. They must find the corpse of the magic user who cast the magic on him. But unfortunately, Lenok turned to ashes by the time Lanfell fell unconscious. He disappeared almost as if he did not exist in the world. All of a sudden, Butler Raymond and the king arrive at the room, checking up on Lanfell. Realizing they've made no progress on Lanfell's recovery, the king suggests that they go underground and look for dark mages that might help him. Later on, Nisha scans all the books, hoping to come across an answer, but she does not find one. Out of desperation, she wishes everything were just a dream. But the idea of a dream gives her hope, and with renewed hope, she comes up with a way to save Lanfell. What could she be planning? Nisha rushes to find Wizard Mullen, inquiring about the magic that involves dreams. This might be the only way to wake Lanfell. Unfortunately, Mullen knows nothing about dream magic, but he knows someone who has a knack for it. Without hesitation, Nisha sets out to find that wizard. She arrives at a house that is made up entirely of wood, something surprisingly normal. Mullen had informed her beforehand that the wizard she'd be meeting is somewhat weird and peculiar. She knocks on the door and is enthusiastically welcomed by a wizard named Silas. Silas displays a playful and weird personality towards Nisha, but it doesn't come off as a shock to her. They might actually get along. Determined to learn dream magic, Silas starts inquiring about Nisha's skill in hypnosis magic. Apparently, the origins of dream magic lies in hypnosis magic. It turns out Silas was particularly bad at hypnosis magic, yet he tried to use his weakness to his benefit. He manipulated hypnosis magic, ultimately creating dream magic, a kind of magic that is harmless and useless to wizards. Getting down to business, they proceed to memorize formulas for the magic circle. As night falls, Silas finds Nisha impressive as she brilliantly gets everything he teaches her in just half a day. But Nisha isn't quite done. She asks Silas about controlling their own dreams. Silas admits that it's kind of easier than what he's been teaching her, but a risky one if she plans to infiltrate Lanfell's dream. After all, they know nothing about the magic behind his slumber. He warns Nisha of a possibility of getting stuck in Lanfell's dream, deeming it too dangerous. With concern, he suggests they look for another way. However, Nisha is desperate. Everything she's ever learned, everything she's ever excelled at, is all useless if she can't even help Lanfell. She won't forgive herself if that happens. With renewed vigor, she promises Silas that she won't fail. She'll succeed at all costs. Let's go, Nisha! Nisha is determined to use all her knowledge of dream magic to bring back Lanfell. However, should anything happen, Silas offers her a magical device. It's a special orb that may help her exit someone's dream in the event that she finds herself too deep into their consciousness. But the risk would be huge. Silas doesn't know for sure if it will be effective for the magic formula Nisha will make. Back at the palace, Nisha is about to test the orb when Isaac barges in, his voice trembling as he tells Nisha about Lanfell's current state. She hurriedly checks on Lanfell, only to find his body getting colder and stiffer by the minute. With no time to waste, she immediately brings out the magic formula, confusing the Grand Wizard. She explains how she would enter Lanfell's dream through a spell. A risky move, she admits. Nevertheless, she promises to come back with Lanfell away from any harm. Finally, Nisha activates the spell and enters Lanfell's subconsciousness. She calls for Lanfell's name and the scenery begins to change. The scene becomes cold, full of trees and devoid of people. From afar, she sees a silhouette of red light and she sprints towards it. But when she arrives at the scene, she finds corpses all over, burnt to a crisp. She freezes at the sight, wondering what happened. This must be about Lanfell's family. She finds herself in a scene that looks like a war has just ended in a bloodbath. But the morbid scene, strong snowstorms and heat from the fire does not stop Nisha from searching for Lanfell. As she walks, she finds a dead body and she realizes that it's Lanfell's mom. The scenery she's in must be the incident that happened 15 years ago. Poor Lanfell. If this incident is playing on a loop inside his head, then Nisha figures out a place where Lanfell could be. When Lanfell was put under Lenok's spell, he arrived at the same scene where Nisha was. He sees his mother, his brother, and himself ambushed in the woods by unknown perpetrators. This is a scene from the past. Over and over, he tries to stop the event from happening, hoping to change his past, but he just can't. Haunted by those memories, he feels grief and guilt towards the incident, reliving it in a tormenting loop. He is out of hope when he suddenly remembers what Nisha said. Whenever he's in a tight situation, he must call her name. In tears, Lanfell calls out her name in the shadows, hoping Nisha would show up. But he soon succumbs to the elements, his body turning cold and stiff as his mind slowly forgets who Nisha is. He's on the verge of hopelessness when Nisha arrives before him, a white light enveloping her arrival. She apologizes for coming late, and finally she reaches out her hand, ready to save him from this nightmare. Imagine living your most traumatic memory over and over again. What a painful loop to be stuck in. Lanfell takes Nisha's hand, and he remembers a similar memory at the back of his mind. In the past, a kid had shown him the same kindness, giving him a scarf imbued with warm magic to lessen the cold. It is then that he realizes that it's been Nisha all along. She's always been around when he needed help the most. The two prepare to go back, and they stab the orb to the ground. But nothing happens. Nisha hoped it would work, but she thinks that something else is up. Perhaps Lanfell is still bothered by something, which is why they're not able to leave. He is still stuck in the past, and the snow symbolizes it. Lanfell is still unable to let go. Nisha tries to look for a way to help Lanfell when suddenly the image of Lanfell's deceased brother materializes before them. His brother asks him to let go, to forget his regrets and move on with his life. You have to move on, Lanfell, even if it hurts. Lanfell is still confused as to why his brother keeps appearing, only to realize that it's his own doing. These people he had in his mind are the result of the agitated memory Lenok created only for him, creating one looped dream. With courage, Lanfell faces his brother, talking to him and settling his own regrets. But his brother only visited him for one reason. He wants Lanfell to remember their family without sadness. In tears, he pulls his brother into a tight hug, finally letting go. As Lanfell admits everything, he stabs the orb to the ground, and in a flash, both Lanfell and Nisha wake up. A day passes, and Lanfell and Nisha walk around the garden. Nisha remembers the earring left by Lenok as he disappeared, but before she could talk more about it, they find Frei digging. What is he doing? It turns out Frei is digging a small grave for Lenok, for the friendship they had when they were both kids. Inside the grave, he buried what was left of Lenok. Yes, those earrings. Frei tells Lanfell he's just fulfilling a promise, not bothering to divulge the details of what he's doing. Trying to shift the topic, Frei then brings up how Professor Mullen was looking for Nisha. He's got important news, so she better find him soon. Nisha sets out to find the Grand Wizard Mullen, with Lanfel trailing behind her. They knock on his door, but nobody answers. Finding this odd, Nisha lets herself in, only to be met by the sight of Mullen smooching someone. Despite Nisha's coaxing and prying about his love life, Mullen tries to divert the topic to more important matters. He's thinking of handing the position of head of the Imperial Magic Agency to Nisha. Hearing this, Nisha is ecstatic, but Lanfel feels the opposite. That night, Lanfel sulks in his bedroom. He feels a little lonely thinking that Nisha won't be by his side when he goes back to the north. She'll have to fulfill her duties at the palace and won't be there for him anymore. The thought is enough to bring him to tears. A man who cries because he's afraid to part from his girl? Lanfel, you are the standard. Morning comes and Lanfel doesn't sleep a wink. He's in his living room still thinking about the situation with Nisha. As if on cue, Nisha knocks on his door and he immediately comes to answer it, albeit a little too enthusiastically. That day, Nisha invites Lanfel for a visit to the city. She wants Lanfel's company. But as they're in the city, Lanfel feels a bit anxious, still wondering what to make of their future. Keep fighting, Lanfel. Lanfel wistfully stares into space, wondering how much time has passed. His thoughts are interrupted by a lively Nisha calling out to him. His sadness deepens as the thought of losing her crosses his mind. While Nisha roams around the city, shopping and enjoying herself, a gloomy Lanfel follows her, clearly preoccupied. Though he wishes to tell her something important, he keeps getting interrupted by her enthusiasm as she enjoys the day. Determined to speak his mind, Lanfel stops Nisha and asks to discuss something serious. He confronts her, asking why she seems unfazed about the fact that he's returning to Delore. Realizing why he was upset earlier, Nisha reassures him, explaining that she always planned on going with him. Though in the past she wanted to stay near the palace because of her duties, since her lover's up north, her priorities have changed. Lanfel expresses overwhelming joy at her decision, which Nisha reciprocates. She reflects on how meeting him is the most beautiful thing that has happened to her since reincarnating into the world of the novel. After returning to Nisha's room, Lanfel earnestly watches her pack her belongings. However, this is merely a facade. He's using the moment as an excuse to spend more time with her since their earlier date had concluded. Concerned about her duties, Lanfel asks what will happen to her role as an imperial wizard. Nisha explains that she still has obligations, but assures him that staying up north doesn't conflict with them. In disbelief, Lanfel seeks affirmation from Nisha about her decision. Nisha continues explaining as Lanfel remains confused by her answer. Although Nisha's position may seem grand, she claims it isn't that big of a deal. She explains that the magic organization trains anyone with potential for great magic prowess and focuses on advancing their research on magic. This is why non-royal blood individuals like Merlin and herself were able to join the organization. As the head of the organization, her main responsibilities are solving unforeseeable issues and handling errands related to magic. She reassures Lanfel that she isn't compelled to stay near the palace to deal with trivial matters. Worried, Lanfel still thinks her role sounds like a lot of work, but Nisha reassures him, explaining that she's already completed 2 years' worth of tasks. She adds that she'll need to check on the palace occasionally, but has decided to stay in the north as a reward for her hard work. She reassures him again that there won't be any issues with her living in the north. Touched by her dedication, Lanfel hugs her lovingly. Just as he's about to leave, a playful Nisha stops him, teasingly insinuating that he doesn't get to leave unless they do something together. Hearing this, Lanfel blushes profusely and shyly tries to reason with her. Determined, Nisha tells him he's not leaving the room until morning. Lanfel gives in, but warns her they'll be staying up all night. Later that night, Nisha passes out quickly, unprepared for Lanfel's unexpected energy and spunkiness. The following day, they finally arrive at the Delore Manor, though late, because those who sent them off took so long saying their farewells. Nisha recalls how Lanfel almost froze from the cold, having apparently forgotten what it's like in the frigid outskirts. As they approach the manor, they are joyfully greeted with a warm welcome by the servants. Nisha immediately announces that she'll be staying with them from now on, making the twins very excited. Unsure, Raymond asks Lanfel if what Nisha said is true, and Lanfel confirms it. This makes Raymond very happy, as he jokingly claims he can now pass away peacefully. With that said, Raymond offers to start preparing for their wedding. The idea seems absurd to the flustered Lanfel as he blushes while pondering it. However, Raymond interrupts his thoughts by suggesting they should at least plan the proposal first. Raymond is clearly the most excited about the wedding. He emphasizes to Lanfell that the proposal is the most crucial aspect to consider before planning a wedding. Overwhelming Lanfell with suggestions, Raymond discusses the location, ring, and other details. Feeling unprepared, Lanfell admits he might not be ready for marriage yet, which disappoints Raymond, who lets out an exasperated sigh. Surrendering, Raymond escorts Lanfell to his room so he can rest. Despite his uncertainty, Lanfell's thoughts linger on how wonderful it would be to give Nisha a ring. The following day, Lanfell commits to the idea of marriage and begins pondering what kind of ring would suit Nisha best. He stares intently at her fingers as he considers this. Curious, Nisha inspects her fingers, wondering if something is amiss. Lanfell quickly makes a witty excuse, saying he just wants to hold her hand. Laughing at his adorable intentions, Nisha offers her hand and says he can hold it whenever he wants. Lanfell closely inspects her hand, caressing it intently. Though they've held hands before, Nisha feels strangely flustered this time, blushing deeply. To change the subject, she asks Lanfell how he got all the scars on his body. He recounts how it began 15 years ago during a cold and snowy evening when he felt lonesome. Suddenly, Raymond, the twins, and other servants entered his room with snacks to keep him company so he wouldn't feel lonely anymore. That moment inspired him to swear to protect Delore and his people. He trained rigorously in swordsmanship to fulfill that vow. Worried she might have brought up painful memories, Nisha apologizes. However, Lanfell reassures her that he doesn't mind and shows her a portrait of his family. Nisha marvels at how much Lanfell resembles his parents. Lanfell then announces that he plans to make this room, his personal and special space, open for others, confusing Nisha. He proceeds to tell her something that leaves her deeply surprised. Later that night, Nisha is dumbfounded about what Lanfell just said earlier. Though she wants to sleep already, what Lanfell told her troubles her so much. Apparently, Lanfell offered her the room whom he cherishes so much. It's also where he keeps all his family's sentimental and precious items. She wonders why Lanfell is so willing to give it away, when in fact before, he used to restrict anyone from entering it. She wonders if it's kind of a marriage proposal. Her imagination then goes wild as she thinks about the both of them sleeping and waking up in that room together. Flushed by these thoughts, she isn't able to get any sleep at all. The following day, Isaac arrives at the manor bringing luggage with him. He claims that he has been sent by Frei to check up on things on the manor, in addition to wanting to see Nisha as well. However, Lanfell doesn't seem to be amused by this. Isaac finished installing the portal instructed by Frei. Afterwards, he then gives Nisha the presents given to her by Stella. Lanfell, on the other hand, is in the corner waiting for the right opportunity to propose. In the night, Lanfell pays a visit to Nisha's room only to find her sound asleep. This is supposed to be the time he's going to propose. The following days, he also attempts to propose but fails as well because of Nisha's errands. The third time he tries to propose, he gets interrupted by her, rendering all his attempts a failure. Apparently, Nisha notices that Lanfell has been oddly following her recently, but decides to ask him this some other time. She then ponders about all of the things that happened, thinking that things have really taken an unexpected turn ever since. Suddenly, she hears a knock on her door. Thinking that it's Lanfell, she immediately heads over and opens it. After she opens the door, she sees a nervous Lanfell, eager to ask her out for a walk. On a cold, snowy night, Nisha is confused about where Lanfell is headed. Lanfell leads them to a seemingly century-old tree. On one of its branches, Nisha discovers a piece of paper wrapped around it, containing a wish. Lanfell explains that the tree existed even before Delore became to be, making it sacred to the people of the land. He adds that those who hold the tree in high regard often make wishes, which somehow come true. Lanfell suggests that they make a wish. Confused, Nisha wonders if this is the only reason they came here, but ultimately finds it adorable. However, there's one detail Lanfell intentionally left out when telling Nisha about the tree. It's a famous spot for proposals, believed to make love last forever. After expressing her appreciation, Nisha presses a reluctant Lanfell to share his wish. As she continues pressing him, the two fall to the ground. After enough thought, Lanfell shyly confesses that his wish is to spend the rest of his life with her. Lanfell finally proposes! It dawns on Nisha why he's been following her so much recently. After joyfully saying yes, she leans in to give him a warm kiss. Afterward, they rush home together. Later, in bed, Lanfell asks Nisha what her wish was. To his delight, her wish is the same: to spend the rest of her days with him. A few days have passed, and it's finally the moment everyone has been waiting for: their wedding. When Frei heard the news, he immediately offered them an annex where the wedding would be held. Up until now, Nisha still finds it hard to believe that she's marrying Lanfell. The twins arrive, teasing her by calling her the Duchess of the North. She waves her hand dismissively, too embarrassed to respond. Curious, Nisha wonders what brought the twins to her. It turns out they've delivered her wedding dress. After helping Nisha dress up and prepare for her wedding, the twins promptly leave, leaving her staring at herself in the mirror for a long time. She reflects on how she never expected to marry the Northern Duke who's so obsessed with her. Suddenly, Stella arrives and gives her the tightest hug. Pamela also appears to express her congratulations. After showing her appreciation, Nisha asks Stella about her well-being. Stella assures her that she and her baby are doing fine, despite the difficulty of traveling up north. After meeting with Pamela and Stella, Nisha sulks in bed, complaining that she's already exhausted before the wedding has even started. Just as she's thinking about Lanfell, an announcement comes that the wedding is about to begin. All of her loved ones and familiar faces applaud as Nisha walks down the center aisle to approach the love of her life, Lanfell. As Nisha and Lanfell stand before each other, ready to exchange their vows, the world seems to fade away. Nisha's heart races faster with each passing moment as she gazes into Lanfell's eyes. Lanfell declares that she's the most beautiful woman he has ever known. Her voice softens as she returns his sentiment, calling him the most handsome man she has ever seen. When the priest announced them husband and wife, time itself seems to slow down. Their kiss stretches on for what feels like forever, a surreal experience they both wish could last a lifetime. A few days after their wedding, Nisha and Lanfell decide to travel south for their honeymoon vacation. Unfortunately, on the way to their destination, Lanfell catches a cold. Earlier in the carriage, while Nisha was sleeping, Lanfell spotted a flower shop. He stepped out of the carriage to buy her a present for their honeymoon. However, rain greeted him on his way back to the carriage, leaving him drenched. As a result, Lanfell has now fallen sick. Feeling guilty, he apologizes profusely for ruining their honeymoon. Nisha laughs this off, finding him adorable as always. She reminds him that this scenario is similar to what brought them close in the first place, when she used to take care of him during his colds. Now they're married. She also expresses her appreciation for the flowers he brought, which bloomed beautifully thanks to the rain. The two spend their time together in the room as Lanfell recovers. The following day, Lanfell feels better, and they visit various places to enjoy their honeymoon. After making the most of their trip, Nisha throws herself onto the bed, squirming with excitement as she looks forward to more adventures. However, both Nisha and Lanfell feel saddened knowing they will return home in 2 days. Determined to make the most of their remaining time, Lanfell frantically searches for a book to guide them on what to do next. Unexpectedly, he finds a map and rushes to Nisha to invite her to the beach. Lanfell is delighted that Nisha seems enthusiastic about the idea. After getting neatly dressed for the beach, Nisha gives Lanfell a sun hat to prevent him from getting sunburned. Nisha then declares the beginning of their journey to the beach. Noticing they're carrying a map, the caretaker of the house wonders if it's the one that's over a decade old. Not thinking much of it, she hopes the place hasn't changed over the years. After walking for a couple of hours, Nisha begins to sense something is off. Meanwhile, Lanfell grows increasingly anxious as he realizes the map isn't aligned with their current location. Nisha offers to take a look at the map, startling Lanfell. This leads to him slipping and causing both of them to tumble down the terrain. After rolling for a while, Lanfell lands on top of Nisha. With the map lost during their fall, they begin searching for it, but luck isn't on their side. Just as Lanfell suggests heading back, Nisha creates a magical L-rod to guide them to the beach. Unfortunately, rain begins pouring again, forcing them to take shelter. They are fortunate enough to stumble upon an abandoned house. However, Lanfell's guilt deepens as he feels he has made everything worse since their honeymoon began. Curious, Nisha asks him what's wrong. He admits that he just wanted everything to be perfect, but feels it has all turned into shambles. Nisha reassures him, saying she honestly enjoys doing anything as long as she's with him. She tells an unconvinced Lanfell that they can always visit the beach another time. What matters most is that they're happy together. Eventually, the rain stops and they decide to have a picnic. To their surprise, they discover that the beach they've been searching for is right next to them. Overjoyed, they gaze upon the sea in fascination. Despite getting lost, they somehow end up at the beach. The two spend the rest of their honeymoon enjoying their time by the shore. On a random and lazy morning, Nisha ponders how her life in the novel has taken such unexpected turns. Initially, she thought being a duchess would mean dealing with piles of tedious work. To her surprise, everything has been running smoothly. Lanfell, on the other hand, has 5 times the workload she does. As she waits for Lanfell to finish his tasks, she decides to take a nap. In her dream, she finds herself in a meadow with a single tree in the middle. Upon closer inspection, she realizes it's a peach tree and plucks one of its peaches. As she examines the peach, it suddenly grows limbs and a head resembling Lanfell. Witnessing this bizarre transformation jolts her awake from her nap. Nisha wonders if the dream signifies that she's pregnant. The following morning, Nisha tries to find the right moment to inform Lanfell. She begins by asking him if he feels ready to have a child. And indeed he does. As Nisha slowly implies that she's pregnant, Lanfell joyfully hugs her. She then asks him what his ideal name for their first daughter would be. Confused, Lanfell asks how she knows it will be a girl, and Nisha confidently claims it's her instinct. Together, they brainstorm names for their first child and even potential names for their second. It turns out all of this was just a flashback, as Nisha recounts the story of naming their children to Irene Delore and Rayan Delore, her two beloved children with Lanfell. Curious, Irene excitedly asks her mother how she knew she would be a girl. Nisha responds that she saw a wonderful peach in her dream, implying that her firstborn would be as precious as that peach. Not wanting to be left out, Rayan reaches out to his mother and asks if he was a peach too. Before Nisha can respond, Lanfell lifts Rayan up playfully. After acknowledging their children's presence and sharing kisses, they prepare to attend the Crown Prince's 7th birthday celebration. In the palace, Nisha and Stella share a toast to celebrate seeing each other again after almost a year. As the two enjoy their conversation, they also wonder how the dads are spending their time. Meanwhile, the dads are busy entertaining the toddlers. Frei playfully tosses his child into the air and catches him, prompting Lanfell to warn him about the danger. Frei dismisses the concern, claiming the child is enjoying it. Lanfell then asks Rayan and Frei's daughter if they want to try. They shyly agree, and Lanfell places a slime beneath them for safety before starting to play. On the other hand, Irene and Geoffrey, the Crown Prince of Melberton, stroll through the streets late at night. Irene wishes to give Geoffrey his gift, but since he was too busy earlier, she didn't get the chance. Now seems like the perfect time to present it. However, as she reaches for her bag containing the gift, a cat suddenly snatches it away. After chasing it for a while, Geoffrey suggests they stop. Unhappy, Irene explains that the bag means a lot to her because her mother specifically made it for her. Hearing this, Geoffrey changes his mind and continues chasing with her. They follow the cat into the palace, but still have no luck retrieving it. Finally, Irene spots the cat perched on a ledge and quickly grabs it. However, she slips and begins to fall. Without hesitation, Geoffrey jumps after her and reaches out to save her. Having no other choice, Geoffrey quickly wraps his arms around Irene to save her from the impact of the fall. Soon after, a gooey creature emerges from Irene's bag, saving them from the fall. The creature's name is Slimy, and it's Nisha's greatest creation. After expressing their gratitude to the slime, they check on each other to ensure they're okay. Afterwards, Irene finally hands Geoffrey the present she's been wanting to give him. However, because of the earlier chase, Irene bursts into tears as she announces that the gift is broken. The gift was supposed to be bunny cookies. Without hesitation, Geoffrey quickly devours the broken cookies, declaring them delicious. Irene gives him a heartwarming look, captivating him completely. Geoffrey recalls a time when he asked his father about what love is. Realizing that what he feels for Irene is love, his heart flutters like never before. In his eyes, Irene shines brightly. Geoffrey starts to wonder what he will do from now on. After returning home, both Nisha and Lanfell are exhausted from the events that unfolded. They highlight everything that happened, especially how Irene's relationship with Geoffrey has improved. As night falls, they become intimate, having not had their time together for a while. After sharing the night together, Nisha and Lanfell decide to eat sweets to recover their stamina. As they enjoy the sweets, they discuss how nice it would be to have their kids join them for such moments in the future. Then the two plan a picnic for the next day. Nisha randomly asks Lanfell if he remembers the time Irene was born. Still saddened by the memory, Lanfell quickly embraces Nisha, not wanting to see her suffer like that again. When she mentions how easy it was for Rayan's birth in comparison, Lanfell chuckles softly. The two share a tender kiss to conclude their night. The next day, they finally head out for their picnic. Irene and Rayan run around the snowy mountains as the family makes their way to find a spot. Nisha and Lanfell comment on how energetic their kids are. Nisha also points out that Lanfell himself seems excited. He doesn't deny it, clearly enjoying his time with his family. Suddenly, they hear a shout calling them. It's Irene and Rayan, likely finding a good spot for their picnic. Hand in hand, Nisha and Lanfell walk toward their children. And that's a wrap for The Northern Duke Needs a Warm Hug. I hope you enjoyed Nisha and Lanfel's adventurous love story. If you want to see more, please like, comment, and subscribe for more heartwarming stories.